Ladies and gentlemen, the Mars on Earth conference is about to begin. I'm here with your co-host, Ms. Sarol.
Leaders of countries, experts in various fields, science, technology, research and design, engineering, space exploration and policy making have all gathered here tonight to establish and further the common understanding and further develop the mankind's next vision to reach Mars.
Together, we will bridge mankind's vision to reach Mars.
Mars for everyone.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Mars on Earth International Digital Conference. To everyone around the world tuning in, Happy New Year.
1st of January, very first day of the year. Everyone sets a new goal and they have full of enthusiasm. So this special day, Mars V team is ready to bring a new hope and new dream to all humankind.
With the mission to connect mankind's vision to reach Mars, the Mars on Earth conference is ready to begin. We have compiled a very unique agenda comprising of numerous Mars and space research specialists and more.
We have some incredible people joining us today, such as Dr. Robert Zubrin, one of the first individuals to promote Mars research and exploration. The man himself who put the idea of Mars in some of the brightest minds in the world, such as Elon Musk, and Alyssa Carson, officially announced by NASA to become the first human to set foot on the red planet.
Other individuals such as Jannica Mikkelsen and Gavin Gallay, who are advocating to revolutionize the mining industry, setting it into space to further decrease our resource depletion right here on Earth.
And foreign ambassadors to Mongolia, international and national leaders also going to participate in our conference.
Starting from mankind's vision to reach Mars to the Mars generation, and finally, digital transition and beyond.
Without further ado, I'm pleased to invite Mr. Erdenbolt Suchbater, founder of Mars V project.
Дэлхийгээс 54.6 км-ийн дэртэй байгаа бидний хэлдгээр ангараг буюу Марс гариг. Яагаад хүн төрлөختөнд, яагаад бидэнд чухал юм бэ? Америкийн нэгдсэн улс, Оросын холбооны улс, бүгд найрамд Хятад улс, Энэтхэг, Европын холбоо, Япон гэд, мөн Арабын нэгдсэн Эмират гэд маш олон улсуудын хувьд өөрсдийн Марс хөтөлбөрөөр зарласан байгаа. Марс хөтөлбөрөөр зарлана гэдэг бол сансрын эдийн засаг, сансрын тэлэлтийн цоошин давлгаанд хүн төрлөختөн уралдан орж ийнэ гэсэн үг. Үнэхээр эрчим хүчний хувьд, хүнс тэжээлийн хувьд, цэвэр усны хувьд дэлхийн ертөнц хямралын өмнө байгаа. Энэ үед бид эхлэгээ хэрхэн хамгаалах вэ? Эхлэгийн нөөцийг хэр зэрэг үр ашигтай зарцуулах вэ? Магадгүй үүнийг шийдэхин тулд сансрын технологиг нээн илрүүлж түүнийг амьдралд, эдийн засагт үр ашигтайгаар хэрэглэх нь хүн төрөлхтний шинэ зорилт болсон юм. Монголын хувьд Марсын энэ том өрсөлдөөнд оролцогч байх боломжтой юу? Бид өөртөө илүү хэтгэж, бид өөртөө агацсан биш, тохирсон ачааг нь үрээд Марсын өрсөлдөөнд орох боломжтой юу? Энэ асуултанд хариулахын тулд бид Марс V төслийг санаачилсан юм а. Happy New Year to all around the globe who are joining our international conference. Ladies and gentlemen, the creation of artificial intelligence and space technology has massively increased the development of the human race. Faced with the currently growing issues of resource depletion, we can look towards to the use of technology and innovation to solve issues of water, food and energy. With the discovery of groundbreaking tech and scientific discoveries, the age of space has opened up to the world more than ever before, pathing to global cooperation and a glaring opportunity of global prosperity. With the ambition to join this effort of development, the Mongolian Aerospace Research and Science Association has been established to connect mankind's vision to reach Mars. The Mongolian Gobi Desert is a treasure that is unique. With its various environments and distinctive location, it is Mars on Earth. We're using this resource. The process of space and Mars exploration can be accelerated. While Mongolia has existed with our rich historical roots to the world, the MarsV project is an opportunity to once again lay the basis for the future. And we are giving MarsV project to the world to open up new possibilities for cooperation and growth. The participation of President of Mongolia and the government of Mongolia, the leading specialists on space and Mars exploration, astronauts who will write history, representatives of public and private organizations who are joining us to share their knowledge for the progress of man must be commended. The Mars on Earth conference is a small example of global cooperation to further the progress of space exploration and research. Ladies and gentlemen, I am pleased to announce the launch of the Mars on Earth International Virtual Conference.
Mars on Earth International Digital Conference, MarsV.
Now, you know the most amazing part about space activities and research is that when it comes to space research, exactly, you're always participating in international cooperation.
Especially nowadays.
Especially nowadays. And with that being said, when most space actors are participating in space activities and research, whether it's on the state level or the private level, they're always in multilateral cooperation.
Yeah, and speaking of state levels, we are very happy that the President of Mongolia, Hалтмаагийн Баттулга, is eagerly supporting the MarsV project. And he actually went to the Gobi with MarsV members to be introduced to the location where the analog stations are to be built.
Yeah, and not only that, the Mongolian president himself has introduced the MarsV project to numerous state leaders from US, Russia, and India, which which just goes to show the amount of support the state is showing us to this amazing project.
And by the way, while we were at the Gobi with the president, we made a video.
Shall we check it out?
Let's take a look.
All right.
Марс гаригийг хүндрэлтэн эзэмших хүсэл тэмүүллийн дор шинжлэх ухаан, техник технологи хөгжсөн энэ цаг үед байгаль их дэлхийг хадгалж хариуцсан хамаарч ирсэн бид түүхэн үүргээ биелүүлжээ. Өвөлдөө хасах төч, зундаан нэмэх төч хүртэл халдаг эрсдэс нөхцөл нь Монголын говийг өөрмөц учир битүүлэг нууцлаг хэвээр хадгалсаар энэ цаг үедээ золгож байна. Археолог, палеонтолог, түүх, соёл иргэншлийн олон нууцуд судлах эзтэй хүлээн их говийн хаа нэгтэй орьссоор байна.
Wow, the video looks so amazing. I thought it was filmed in studio.
No, what can I say? That is Mars. That is the Gobi. It's such a unique treasure that the world holds, you know. That's why we're saying it's one of the best places to prepare for Mars exploration and essential researches.
Yeah, as you said, we have a great resource of landscape and climate, but resources without any future plan and strategy is nothing.
When you're trying to progress into the future towards success, planning is always the best way. And without further ado, I want to invite Chief Cabinet Secretary Lofson Namsrang Oyurden to the stage.
Эрхэм зочдоо, ноёд татагтаа нараа, эрхэм эрдэмтэн судлаачдаа. Монгол Улсын ерөнхийлөгчийн ивэлд ор Монгол Улсын засгийн газар Монголын сансрын судалгаа хөгжүүлэлтийн төвтэй хамтран зохион байгуулж буй дэлхийд дээрх Марс буюу Mars on the Earth олон улсын цахим хурлыг дэлхийн олон орноос үзэл сонирхож буй та бүхэндээ энэ өдрийн мэндийг хүргье. Мөн энэ таслыг санаачлагч, Монголын сансрын судалгаа хөгжүүлэлтийн төвийн тэргүүн эрхэм нөхөр Эрдэнэ Олд түүний нөхдөд чин сэтгэлээсээ талархал илэрхийлье. 21-р зуун бол өндөр хурдны технологийн 90 зуун, хиймэл оюун ухааны хөгжил, сансрын технологийн үе юм а. Монгол улсын хувьд өнгөрсөн 30 жилд өгнөж шинэ 30 жилийг тодорхойлсон Алсын хараа 20 бодлогын баримт бичгийг Монгол улсын их хурлаас баталж хэрэгжүүлж байгаа. 2021 он бол энэ жилийн бодлого хэрэгжиж эхлэх хамгийн эхний жил юм. Монгол улсын засгийн газраас мэдээлэл технологи, цахим хөгжлийг эдийн засгийн тэргүүлэх чиглэл болгон анх удаа зарлаж төрөөс бүх төрийн үйлчилгээг цахим шилжүүлэх ийм Монгол хөтөлбөрийг өнөөдөр бид нэр амжилттай хэрэгжүүлж одоогийн байдлаар 380 орчим төрийн үйлчилгээг амжилттай нэгтгэхэд байна. Ийм төрийн бодлого илүү шуурхай, ил тод, хүн сурталгүй байх шийдлүүдийг гаргаж чадна гэдэгт итгэлтэй байна. Сансар судлалын хөгжлийн талаар ч гэсэн бид томоохон зорилтыг 3 үе шаттай дэвшүүлж байгаа юм. Эхний үе шатанд сансрын технологиг судлан, шинжлэх, эзэмших, ашиглах, дэд үтцийг бэхжүүлэх, сансрын технологид суурилсан үндэсний бүтээгдэхүүн үйлчлэгийг бий болгохыг бид нар эхний зорилт гэж үзэж байгаа. За хоёрдугаар шатанд сансрын холбооны үндэсний хиймэл дагуулын сүлжээг бий болгох, үндэсний харилцаа холбооны сүлжээний ашиглалт, хяналтын менежментийг хөгжүүлж олон улсын түвшинд хүргэх ажлыг бид нар хоёрдугаар шатанд тодорхойлж байгаамаа. За гуравдугаар шат бол 41-ээс 50 онд бид сансрын технологийн тусламжтайгаар байгалийн амжиргаас сэрэмжлүүлэх систем, хөлийн болон газар нутгийн хяналт, боловсрол, эрүүл мэндийн зайны үйлчлэгийг хөгжүүлэх, улс орны эдийн засаг аюулгүй байдал, бизнесийн өрсөлдөх чадварт үр өгөж бий болгох зорилтыг 3-р шатанд бид нэр тус тавьж байгаамаа. Монгол улс дэлхийн хөгжлийн ирээдүйн чиг хандлагад нийцсэн алсын хараатай бодлогыг хэрэгжүүлэхийн тулд сансрын технологид суурилсан шинэ гарааны компаниуд сансрын аялал жуулчлалын загварчлал, сансрын хөгжүүлэлт, гадаадын улс орнуудтай хамтран хиймэл дагуул хөрөнгө оруулалтын хамтын ажиллагааг бүх талаар дэмжин ажиллахад бэлэн байгаагаа илэрхийлж байна. Марс төслийн тухай өнөөдрийн энэхүү хурал Монгол улсын сансрын бодлого хөгжүүлэлтийн түүхэнд онцлог нэгэн чухал үйл явдал болон үлдэж байна гэдэгт итгэлтэй байна. Сансрын бодлого цаашд улам бүр гүнзгийрэн хөгжихийн өрөөл дэвшүүлж Монгол улсын ерөнхий сайдын нэрийн өмнөөс болон сансрын үндэсний комиссийн даргын хувьд та бүхэндээ ажлын амжилт хүсье.
Mars on Earth International Digital Conference, MarsV.
You know, it's amazing how much support the MarsV project is getting nationally and internationally. And to be honest, I'm so happy to be part of this project.
Me too. I'm so happy too because I met so many amazing people during the preparation of the conference. And one of those people is Ambassador of India to Mongolia. So ladies and gentlemen, it is our privilege to invite Mr. MP Singh.
Sanbeno, good afternoon, namaskar. It is indeed a pleasure for me to be joining you all virtually for this prestigious event organized by MARSA. My warmest felicitations and greetings to the energetic team of MARSA, ably led by my friend Eden Bold. I have had the pleasure of personally interacting with most members, and I can say that their perseverance, patience, persistence, and enormous energy level inspire me to no end. Their genuine enthusiasm and keen eagerness to develop and promote the use of space science for betterment of Mongolian nation and its wonderful people is simply commendable. I'm particularly pleased to note that the Mars on Earth conference is being held shortly before the 40th anniversary of the astronaut Garucha's, the first Mongolian and the second nation sojourn in space, and after the decommissioning of Mongolia's first ever satellite, Mazalai, in May 2019, which brings added significance to this event. Announcement of the Indian government to allow Indian private players and startups in Indian space sectors encouraged a group of young researchers from Mars who also accompanied President Batulga for his state visit to India in September 2019 to open negotiations with the Indian space scientists at the world-renowned ISRO, or called Indian Space Research Organization, a premier agency for manufacturer, service provider, and technology developer in the space sector. During their fruitful and productive exchange of ideas, they also explored the possibility of launching the second Mongolian satellite into the space, and we are working towards it. I hope the agreement in the space cooperation signed between Mongolia and India in September 2019 and the deliberations in the conference will fructify into closer cooperation between ISRO and CETA and also with the MARSA. I'm sure that efforts of the Mars team would be ably complemented by about 225 Mongolian space scientists, professionals who have been trained in ISRO during the last 2 decades, and half of which are women. Friends, India's achievement in the space sector need not be overemphasized. Since the launch of its first satellite, Aryabhata, 45 years ago in 1975, India has continued its successful journey in space with aplomb. On November 6, to be precise, amidst COVID-enforced environment, India successfully launched Earth Observation Satellite EOS-01, as well as 9 more satellites from the customer nations on board PSLV C-49, taking its total tally of launches of satellites and spacecrafts to an astonishing 199. Where what makes it unique is that ISRO operates on a shoestring budget of just about $1.2 billion as compared to the NASA annual budget of about USD 22.6 billion, China Space Agency USD 11 billion, and the Eurospace Agency's annual budget of USD 7.43 billion. ISRO and its commercial arm Antrix, and they are exceptionally strong in technical and through efficient technological capabilities offer services at hugely competitive cost. To cite an example, in September 2014, India successfully launched its Mangalyaan mission in the red planet Mars in the very first attempt after a complex 10-month voyage. What was more remarkable in this was the amazing feat was carried out at about just $74 million, or 25% less than the cost of Hollywood movie Gravity, which had a budget of about $100 million. To allow better perspective of US Mars mission cost USD 671 million, and the Eurospace mission cost was 200 billion. The fact that till 2019 December, India has launched a total of 319 satellites for 33 different nations, including 104 Indian satellites, speaks volumes of ISRO's strength and admirable journey that continues unabated. In the next 2 years, ISRO plans to launch 36 more missions, including manned mission to Moon Chandrayaan and to the red planet Mars. I invite Mongolian Space Agency to join hands, and I invite Mars to join hands with ISRO, and I'm genuinely sanguine that this conference and the framework provided by the 2019 space agreement between India and Mongolia will pave the way for development, intensification, and strengthening of space sector in Mongolia. The program content of this conference reflects the commitment and desire of young Mongolian researchers to engage with the global experts in consolidating the gains made so far by their organization Mars in the space sector, and to carry forward their favorite mission, Mars on Earth project in Gobi. I wish you success with your conference, and of which I'm very sure I will see so much more fruitful discussions. Thank you very much, and all the very best. Happy New Year to you.
Mars on Earth International Digital Conference, Mars V.
Mankind's vision to reach Mars. You know, our current era of space exploration, our space era, will be defined by whether we get to the red planet or not. It will be our next giant leap.
And you might ask, why go to Mars? What is the purpose of Mars exploration?
Well, we're gonna need a lot more time. But in short, if you know, in the sense from movies and predictions, if humans want to become a multi-planetary species, obviously Mars is the next step.
And Dr. Robert Zubrin, president and founder of Mars Society, has helped build several analog stations throughout the world, which receives analog trainees every year.
And not only that, Dr. Zubrin is one of the first people on Earth to advocate for man to go to Mars.
Joining us from Colorado, USA, Dr. Robert Zubrin.
Hello, I'm Robert Zubrin. I'm president of the Mars Society. And it's my pleasure to greet this conference in Mongolia. I'm very supportive of the effort of Mars VR to create a Mars analog research station in Mongolia. Mars is the challenge of our generation. Mars is the new world. It's the closest planet that has on it all the materials needed to support life and therefore civilization, and we can reach it in our time. And in my book, it's what our principal objective should be. Mars is where the science is. It's where the challenge is. It's where the future is. Mars is where the science is because early Mars was like Earth. If Earth could evolve Mars, so could Mars. But did it? And if it did it evolve life that was the same as Earth life, or very similar to it, or something completely different? This is the key for letting us know the truth about the potential prevalence and diversity of life in the universe. And we're only going to be able to find it out by sending human explorers to Mars. Mars is where the challenge is, the great adventure. Youth loves adventure. And any country that participates in a Humans to Mars program would be sending its message to all its young people: learn your science and you can be part of the greatest adventure of all time. And the United States doubled its science graduates during the Apollo program because that was the message it sent. And in fact, I was one of those young people who went into science because of that. And many others did who did not end up in the space program, but they ended up doing the computer revolution and biotech revolution, advancing society in all kinds of ways. And then it's where the future is. If we do what we can do, then 500 years from now, there will not only be new branches of human civilization on Mars, but there will be on thousands of planets orbiting other stars. When we go to Mars, we're initiating a new phase of human existence as humanity, as a spacefaring species. It's as significant a change to the human condition as when we first left the Kenyan Rift Valley, where humans evolved to go out and settle Europe and Asia and eventually Australia and the Americas and become a global species with hundreds of nations. Okay, well, we're going to become a spacefaring species with thousands of planets. Okay, and Mars is where it begins. But we need to learn how we're going to explore Mars, and the best way to do it is on Earth. There are places on Earth where we can practice exploring Mars and figure out what's going to work and what isn't. Now, some people say, well, we need to do that on the moon. Well, if we go to the moon before we go to Mars, we can do that on the moon too. But we can do it on Earth right now, and even if we were on the moon, we could do this on Earth at 1,000th the cost or less. So we're going to get a lot more practice for Mars missions on Earth. And it is for this reason that the Mars Society has built 2 stations, one in the Canadian Arctic and one in the American desert. We call them Mars Analog Research Stations, where we can practice Mars missions. And people who have gone through our program have gone on to establish additional stations in Hawaii and Israel and Poland and elsewhere. And it would be really great to have one in the Mongolian desert too. Now, what can we do at these stations? We can take a group of people and task them to conduct a sustained program of field exploration in geology, in microbiology, in paleontology. Okay, the same things they would be doing on Mars, and doing them under as many Mars mission constraints as we can impose on them. And by so doing, we learn what's going to work on Mars and what isn't. What technologies would be useful to the crew, what forms of organization of the mission are best. We very early on discovered that if you do a mission like this, it has to be led from the front. So we don't even call our mission control anymore. We call it mission support, because a Mars mission is going to be needed to be led from the front, and the crew is going to have to be trained that way. And this is something we've discovered by doing these missions. We can try to see how much water people need. I don't mean how much water they need to drink. That's a number you can get out of a medical textbook. But how much you need to use for washing and cooking, etc., if you really tighten things up. Okay, but now you can tighten it incredibly if you want, but you will impact morale. So what is the right trade for the amount of water a crew is allowed to use to be a hardworking and nevertheless effective crew? Okay, that can only come from experience. What kind of field mobility systems? Do we want to explore Mars in big pressurized rovers like the size of buses you sometimes see in the movies with mobile laboratories, or maybe something smaller, the size of a sports utility vehicle, or maybe something even smaller, like all-terrain vehicles. And I'm a big fan of that. I think that Mars needs to be explored in the saddle, and perhaps this is something that Mongolians can relate to. Famous horsemen, well, we're not going to take horses to Mars, but you explore Mars riding on an all-terrain vehicle, you've got something that can handle much rougher terrain than a school bus-sized rover and do a lot more exploration. So there's all sorts of things. It is an operational simulation first and foremost. We can also do technical simulations as well, testing out not only different kinds of equipment, say ground-penetrating radar, but see if the kind of equipment that has been designed is something that can be handled by people in spacesuits. All right, because it's one thing to create a piece of equipment. It's another thing to create a piece of equipment that somebody who's wearing a spacesuit or even a simulated spacesuit can actually use with the heavy, thick gloves and all of this. So to find out what instruments are likely to be useful and be usable, you need to simulate the mission. You need to practice it. We need to practice how people and robots can work together. Okay, this is a combined operations problem. The military, they have to coordinate tanks and infantry and helicopters and airplanes. Well, on Mars, we're going to have to learn to coordinate pedestrian astronauts, astronauts on wheeled vehicles, robotic rovers, maybe aerial drones or helicopters, satellite imagery, mission support back at Earth. All these things have got to be made to work together. And just like the military, they practice doing maneuvers, and no competent military would ever not do maneuvers, even though maneuvers are not the same thing as real war. There's no one trying to kill you. They nevertheless learn a great deal from these maneuvers, okay? And they would clearly be incompetent not to do it. Well, we have to do Mars maneuvers, and we can do it in the desert in stations like what Mars VR is hoping to build in Mongolia. And the Mars Society will be happy to cooperate with this effort in any way we can. So, and then there's one more thing. You do these stations and you see people doing Mars exploration. You see it. People can see it. And especially, it gets reported in newspapers and on television, and young people can see it. And they say, gee, if I learn my science, this is what I could be doing. And if you want to increase the number of science graduates, if you increase the intellectual capital of your country, there's no better program. And furthermore, if Mongolia builds a station like this, people from all the world's major space agencies will come there to use it. So Mongolia, on a fairly limited budget, could come to be a significant participant in the world's efforts to send humans to Mars. So I'm with you on this 100%, and I will do anything we can to help. Thanks.
A great talk, and Mars is really next step progress. And it's very important to prepare before landing on Mars.
Yeah, definitely. Preparation is everything when it comes to space exploration. And analogs are being built actually all around the world to provide the best type of experience and training for survivability and adaptation all around the world.
Therefore, we are going to invite astronaut instructor at European Space Center, Mr. Pierre-Emmanuel from Belgium.
Bonjour, je m'appelle Pierre-Emmanuel Paulis et je suis instructeur à l'Eurospace Center en Belgique, mais également le président de la Mars Society Belgium. Et nous avons conçu à l'Eurospace Center le premier village martien en Europe. C'est une base indoor dans notre grand hall d'entraînement, et ce qui permet aux visiteurs, mais également aux enfants, les classes de l'espace qui viennent suivre un entraînement d'astronautes pendant plusieurs jours, et aux stagiaires pendant les vacances, des enfants également ou des jeunes qui viennent également suivre ce même type d'entraînement, ça permet de tout savoir sur la planète Mars. Alors nous avons décidé de composer ce village martien en 4 modules. 4 modules, 4 thèmes différents. Dans chacun de ces modules, eh bien, le visiteur pourra, à l'aide d'écrans tactiles et interactifs, tout savoir sur les différents thèmes. Le premier module et le premier thème est consacré au voyage vers Mars, qui va durer en principe à peu près 6 mois. Qu'est-ce qu'un équipage va faire dans l'espace pendant 6 mois, le temps d'atteindre la planète rouge? Psychologiquement, ça ne va pas être facile du tout, et il va avoir beaucoup de travail, c'est très important pour qu'il soit occupé pendant ces 6 mois de voyage. Ça correspond à peu près, évidemment, à une mission comme si on était à bord de la Station spatiale internationale. Il va effectuer cet équipage des tas d'expériences scientifiques, etc., etc. Mais l'important, évidemment, ce sera de partir au bon moment. On aborde dans ce premier module également l'importance de la fenêtre de lancement. Il s'agit d'envoyer un équipage en orbite autour du Soleil, puisqu'il faut rattraper la planète Mars. C'est un vol balistique, on ne peut pas changer de trajectoire en cours de route, et donc on parle de tout cela. L'importance donc du bon moment pour partir vers Mars, puisqu'il n'y a une fenêtre de lancement en fait qu'à peu près tous les 2 ans. Dans ce module, nous avons également un écran qui nous donne en direct la distance qui nous sépare de la planète Mars. Pour le moment, la Terre est en train de s'éloigner de Mars, et donc on voit les kilomètres qui défilent, la distance qui augmente en direct entre les deux planètes, la Terre et Mars. Si jamais il y avait une éruption solaire très très importante, l'équipage aura quelques heures pour aller se protéger dans une partie d'un vaisseau spatial blindé. Quel est le meilleur blindage possible? Si jamais la salle de contrôle avertit brusquement, attention, il y a une éruption solaire, vous avez quelques heures pour vous réfugier, eh bien il faudra choisir, le visiteur choisira quel est le meilleur type de blindage possible pour se protéger. Est-ce de l'eau, du plomb, un mélange des deux? On peut le découvrir sur notre écran tactile. Le deuxième module est consacré à l'atterrissage sur Mars. Jusqu'à présent, on n'a encore posé sur Mars qu'un petit robot qui pèse environ 1 tonne. C'est le maximum de poids au niveau d'un robot actuellement sur Mars. Pour poser ce robot d'1 tonne, il a fallu inventer toute une procédure extrêmement complexe et dangereuse pour poser ce module sans casse à la surface de Mars, avec un bouclier thermique pour protéger la capsule lors de la rentrée dans l'atmosphère martienne, ouvrir des parachutes, des rétrofusées, stabiliser l'engin et une plateforme qui libère un câble qui descend le petit robot à la surface de Mars. Maintenant, il va falloir poser un équipage sur la planète Mars, c'est-à-dire avec un engin spatial qui pesera plusieurs dizaines de tonnes. Comment va-t-on faire sans casse? C'est le défi de l'atterrissage, on l'aborde dans le module numéro 2. Dans le module numéro 3, nous abordons la planète Mars en tant que telle, au niveau de la géologie, au niveau du climat, des raisons pour lesquelles on veut aller rendre visite à la planète Mars, le côté scientifique de la planète Mars. Et enfin, le 4e module, lui, aborde le pilotage de robots. Le visiteur aura à sa disposition 8 robots qui circulent sur un terrain martien reconstitué. Depuis ce module, les visiteurs peuvent voir ce paysage, bien entendu, à travers une verrière, et avec un petit joystick et un écran d'ordinateur, l'enfant peut piloter le robot sur le terrain martien, aller viser un QR code, et une fois qu'il a visé son QR code, eh bien, il y a une information au niveau géologie qui apparaît sur l'écran d'ordinateur, et ainsi, 8 robots, 8 types de géologie, 8 types de roches, 8 types de façon d'observer la planète Mars, et le QR code donne une information au visiteur sur ce qu'il a découvert. À ma connaissance, c'est la première fois en Europe que nous avons développé un tel village martien. Bienvenue si cela vous intéresse, et je suis très très fier de représenter le projet Mars V ici en Belgique et en Europe.
So, it's really important to have extensive preparations when we're going to Mars. And analogs play a big role.
Yeah, not only that, they're also being built all around the world today and right now. But when it comes to the Gobi, we're saying it's very Mars-like, and it is, definitely is, temperature, environment. But there are other many aerospace researchers that can be done on the Gobi Desert.
Definitely, such as material science experiments, and more specifically the stratospheric balloon experiment that Dr. Hiroaki Akiyama from Japan does, and he's the first ever international advisor of the Mars V project. And he's here with us right now.
So let's give our attention to Dr. Akiyama on the potential of the Gobi Desert.
Good evenings, my Mongolian friends. How do you do? My name is Hiroaki Akiyama. I'm a professor of Japanese universities. Yes, I'm very fine, but recently I'm very sad because I can't go to your countries because of COVID. Last few years, every year I went to your countries. I make some experiments in your countries, and of course, I make a lot of parties with my friends, with my Mongolian friends. It's a very happy time to me. So I hope in near future I want to go to your countries and I make my experience again. Yeah, and of course I want to make a lot of parties with you. This is my hope. Yes. And today I want to talk about my experiment about the stratospheric balloons. Maybe you know stratosphere. Stratosphere is high sky places. The altitude is about 30 kilometers or 40 kilometers. And the stratospheres and our ground is completely separated by the very strong winds named jet streams. So usually the materials and some life is we can't go to the stratospheres because of protected by the jet streams. That meaning is if we find some materials or some lives in stratospheres, maybe it's come from space, not Earth's ground is. So the stratosphere is a very good place to find the materials and lives from space. It's very interesting things. So the purpose of our experiment is we want to find the life from the space. And another thing is stratosphere is a very interesting places. For example, the temperature is very low, about minus 30 or 50 degrees. And the pressures is very low too. Maybe you know the Earth's surface pressure is about 1 atm. 1 atm is the same things about 1,000 hectopascals. But in stratosphere, the pressures is about 10 hectopascals. So stratosphere has very low degrees, very low temperatures, and very low pressures. But it's the same situations of Mars and skies. So maybe you know the surface of the Martians. The degree is about minus 30 or minus 50 degrees, and the surface of the Martian pressure, Martian atmospheres, Martian ground pressures is about 10 hectopascals. So if you make some airplane or drones for Earth's stratosphere, maybe this airplane or drone can be flight on the Martian skies. It's very interesting. Of course, I know your members just now they want to make the simulation site of the Martian ground, but your country has another good simulation site of Martian skies. But of course, stratosphere. Every country has a stratospheres. But if you want to make the experiments of the stratospheric balloons, you need a very wide flat fields. It is because the balloons they can't they have to flow by windows. So usually a balloon can be swept about 200 or 300 kilometers by the windows. So of course, you know, Japan has a very small country. So if I try to experiment of the stratospheric balloons in Japan, maybe we need the ships, ocean ships. It's because our balloon is easy to fly from land to ocean. So it's very difficult to find the balloons on the oceans. But in your countries, we can easy to find the balloons on your grasses fields. And of course, there are a lot of the nomads, and they make nomads created web-like paths for every places. So we can easy to find the balloons by using the car. It's very good places. And maybe in near future, if we want to go to Mars, we need the simulation site of the Martian surface. But the simulation site of the Martian skies is very important too. So I think that Mongolia is a very, very good place to simulate with the Martian ground and Martian sky. Yeah. So after the COVID, I will go to your country too, and I want to continue to my stratospheric balloons experiment with my friend. Maybe you know Mongol Kosen's members, they are specialists of the stratospheric balloons experiment. It is because we already experiment with them about 20 times or over 20 times. So they are the specialists of the stratospheric balloons. Okay? So see you soon. Bye-bye.
See you soon too, Dr. Akiyama. He is a good friend of ours, and he already visited Mongolia's Gobi several times to conduct his stratospheric balloon experiment.
Speaking of Gobi, our next speaker will talk about Gobi and Mongolian history in the space industry.
She will give you a basic understanding of Mars research, and it is my pleasure to invite Professor of Physics and Astronomy at the National University of Mongolia, Dr. Rinchigin Sozmong.
Mars and Earth International Digital Conference, MarsV.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Solomon Rinchin. I come from Mongolian National University of Mongolia. I belong to a Space Science Laboratory. Today I am very honored to share with you on topic why Mongolia and all countries should support Mars study. So here I would like to share, as astronomy has many branches. So for example, some astronomers have solar astronomy, some astronomers belong to stellar astronomy. So today we will focus planetary science. So planetary science, it means to study our planets. So since our topic is Mars, we made our research using planetary science or Mars study. Astronomy and around the world today is also make discoveries through ground-based telescopes, space-based observatories, robotic probes, and also theoretical calculations and simulations. So we try to use using all these techniques because we have telescopes, we have also space-based observation, because we have also cooperation and collaboration with ISS, International Space Station. There is Japanese station from where our satellite released. So we have also such experience with them. Robotic probes. So one of biggest activity now is International Astronomical Union activities. So as you know, Astronomical Union Union, this union celebrated 100-year anniversary last year. So we had lots of activities for this year, and also we have Mongolian outreach activities. So I belong to Mongolian as a Mongolian outreach coordinator to this organization. So I wanted to share some outputs with you. So one of biggest activity from 400-year anniversary, we named exoplanet after our Mongolian star. This star name is Mazalai, and also planet is Bambrush. So this Mazalai and Bambrush, it was named by kids, Mongolian kids. They selected this name and they win this lottery, or they announced it for the whole world. So for the research, so also we also doing some research using rovers data and also remote sensing data, how Mongolian desert to be similar to Mars surface. For example, I am here to wanted to share Spirit and Opportunity rovers, because our students and also researchers sometimes use this data. They provide this data for free, downloadable, publicly available. This also supports for our research. So I also wanted to mark perseverance. So this, we also expecting lots of data from Perseverance rover, because this is February 11, next year, February 18. So the Perseverance will land on Mars. Then humanity, as mankind of this world, expecting data from the Perseverance. So also I saw this launch for this Perseverance from space station, how it launched. It was amazing experiment for us. So we thank to NASA, share it with us online for free. So Perseverance, I wanted to also share. Perseverance also will land on this place, because this place always was interesting for Mongolians, because it is 3.5 billion years ago there was life. So now there's such places in Mongolian Gobi, you can see it, you can find it. So right this time, Mars V organization appeared, and they contributed lots of activities for research, for education, for public outreach. For research, they organize some technology related courses. Also, they encourage young people to study science, and also public outreach. They develop lots of romantic, inspiring activities so that attract people to night sky. So as I mentioned, for research, so research topic is for us very important. So I'm here, I will share some findings from international outputs for the international journals. So not only we point out that Mongolian Gobi similar to Mars, but international researchers, they also find out some results. It means there is some scientifically founded result. For example, Mongolian plateau on Earth and Tarsis on Mars. Tarsis, there is place on Tarsis place on Mars. They have remarkable similarities. So From here also we using data from opportunity, spirit, curiosity, perseverance. So it is also publicly available data they provide. So our researchers now change their mind. They would like to apply hydrology, water, groundwater, snow data and compare it with Mars surface. So through MarsV, our researchers and students can use for their comparison study in Mongolian plateau and Mars study. It is also good opportunity for them to develop a research activity. For example, so as I mentioned before, there is similar place, Mongolian plateau and Tarsis on Mars. There are similarity because in this scientific research, I mentioned this, in this scientific paper, they made analysis, exactly comparative studies of the Mongolian plateau and Tarsis provide excellent opportunities for understanding surface manifestations, some groundwater process. So it also tells us the Mongolian Gobi will be more similarities with Mars studies. So our researchers reading this and using this result, we have now very good mission or some goals, some objectives to expand this research. So for similar from rover data, from different rovers data, we can also we can make some comparison using astrogeology, and also a project also allow us to experience conduct for Mars, and also using some climate change, we also compare with Mars surface data. So Mars we also will develop support citizen science and outreach activity, which are ongoing now. So now Mars we will change it in different positive ways, I think. The future Mars mission Mongolian Desert Gobi will be developed. So the main goal, it will be inspire teenagers to choose career in science technology. So Mars will allow us, it's exciting gateway into astrophysics, astrochemistry, astrobiology, astromathematics, and also astroelectronics, optics, information technology. So Mars we might contribute, and also I believe that Mars contribution to be science teachers through Mars findings, and also young generation kids in Mongolia have been showing increase in space science. I know this Mars they attract many young people now. So I believe that astrotourism and astroarchaeology, astroculture will be developed in the near future. Research, education, and outreach and international collaborations also will be together very soon. And also Mars for humanity, for mankind goal is, was there ever ancient life on Mars? So to answer that question, Mongolian Gobi will provide research and experimental environment. For example, we provide soil sample and also experiment varieties, sophisticated instrument for future mission. So Mars mission changing every year and developing and expanding. So one of mission will be, I'm sure, in Mongolian Gobi. And also Mars will combine science technology with inspiration and excitement. And also it will be unique role in education and capacity building in sustainable development for Mongolia. Thank you for your attention.
Hi, my name is Rick Davis, and I'm the Assistant Director for Science and Exploration in the Mars Exploration Program at NASA headquarters. I want to thank the Mars V team for this opportunity to say a few words about Martian exploration, as well as why we are so thrilled to be working with Mongolia on Martian exploration. First of all, before I get started, I do want to say that we sincerely hope, that everyone there is as safe as possible with this virus situation. It's pretty bad here, but we're getting through it, and across the planet, working together, I think we will figure all that out. I am also the Secretariat for the International Mars Exploration Working Group, which Mars V just recently joined, bringing us to 25 space agencies that are actually now working together to make Martian exploration possible. We have been going to Mars for 50 years, which is incredible to think about, but we have been. And as we look now, we realize we are really ready for the next step, which is the human exploration of Mars. And that is totally cool. But to do that, where you're sending crews out on 3-year-long missions, 6 to 9 months to get there, 500 days either in orbit or on the surface, and another 6 to 9 months back. That is a major undertaking, given how far the planets are from each other. And we are going to need ideas from all over this planet, figure out how to do that and how to do it efficiently and safely. And I would say if there is a common theme amongst all the members of the International Mars Exploration Working Group, it's not only that Mars and exploring it is totally cool, but that we, working together, can solve these kinds of challenges, and in a way that will really bring a lot of amazing things back to our planet. Now I'd like to talk a little bit about Mongolia and some of the ways I think it could help contribute to Martian exploration. First of all, Mars V has been working very hard on the possibility of analogs in the Gobi Desert. The Gobi Desert is a pretty fascinating place. The geology is very similar to many places on Mars. It's arid, it's dry, it's remote, and it even has craters, and Mars has lots of craters that have impacted its overall development over time. So there's just some really incredible opportunities in terms of understanding the analogs as they apply to robotics, but also to humans. And to that regard, I'd like to talk a little bit about the human piece, because building habitats that work in these environments is really a key part of analog work. Understanding isolation is really important. And I would suspect, I have not been to Mongolia yet, and I hope I get to at some point, but I bet that in the Mongolian desert region, it is so sparsely populated that I bet there are a lot of ideas there on how you handle isolation that we have not even thought about working on the International Space Station. And it would be really great not only to use the analog sites to enable Martian exploration, but also to understand that vast experience that probably exists with the people who live in those kinds of sparsely inhabited regions. There is another area that I think Mongolia may end up looking at, and I would hope so, which is what we call small missions. It's actually a really new and emerging capability that allows smaller missions to essentially ride along with larger missions at very low cost, and then they can get out to Mars and don't have to pay the cost for all the transportation out there, but then they can do incredible science. We also believe and foresee having a more robust communications infrastructure at Mars, much like at Earth, where you have geosynchronous satellites. And if we can achieve that, and we're working very hard to do that, then the capability of these smaller missions to do amazing science and reconnaissance at our second planet is going to be incredible. And it is a great way for new space countries to actually meaningfully and contribute to the exploration of Mars and the eventual human exploration of Mars. So those are some of the areas that I'm aware of already, and I'm sure that the Mars V team, which is as creative as they come, will come up with even more ideas. And we, again, really look forward to working with your all's team. Thank you again for this opportunity to say a few words. Take care and be safe. All the best.
I think this is a really innovative project. I'm really happy to see it be so complementary to a lot of the work and a lot of the efforts that are going on in both Mars science and Mars exploration. I think the team has made a really good case for why the Gobi Desert is analogous to Mars in a number of really important ways, both for research and exploration. And I wish the team and the effort all success.
Mars on Earth International Digital Conference, Mars V.
Amazing speeches and presentations. And I didn't know there was a planet named Magellan Bambrouche, and that was amazing. So now, panel discussion of first part of our Mars on Earth International Conference is ready to start. Joining the panel is the establishment team leader and CEO of Mongolian Green Finance Corporation and Mars V team's honorary advisor, Mr. Boldo Magwang, and the senior lawyer at Dacheng Dentos International Law Firm and Satellite CD Projects Director at Mars V Project, Mr. Battergil Turbold. It is my privilege to invite these distinguished guests onto the stage.
So, Mr. Boldo, you have extensive experience in planning and implementing a multi-stakeholder international projects in public and private sectors, in promoting and enforcing good governance and management practices. And a lot of our audience probably know you best as the former CEO of Hasbank and currently as the president of PMI Mongolia chapter. My question to you is, what would be the best practice or a proven approach to start off on the right foot and implement a mega project like Mars V?
Thank you. So any project, small or large, has very simple characteristics. Mm-hmm. It should has very clear objective, scope of work, timeline, and budget, of course, to implement the project. So plus to that, recently, the leadership skill of members of the project team, soft skills, human relationship, and agility of the team members to execute any task is acute importance. So these ingredients will shape the success of any project. And exactly this process was followed by previous space exploration projects by our northern neighbor Soviet Union to bring Yuri Gagarin to space, and US Apollo mission to land man on the moon.
On the moon.
Yeah. Not yet, Mars. So those projects were more like technological and, of course, geopolitical projects at that time. These days, I think it's no difference. Any project, including Mars V, should follow this project execution processes.
Definitely. My next question to you is, what would be our primary focus and concern when creating a brand new project for the space industry in Mongolia?
So Mars V is the great initiative from civil society, from Mongolian youth, to be part of the global mission, land on Mars. Mongolian youth wants to be part of this global process. Because of that grand mission, we should understand where we're going, where we're entering, because this multinational project has a multi-sectoral feature, which means many sectors, different sectors have to participate to successfully implement this mission. Geology, construction, science, agriculture,
right?
You can name. Then this project has another feature. It involves many different disciplines, professions. Astronauts,
right?
Land experts, biology, microbiology, IT, chemistry, everything. So then this project also involves different actors, like civil society, non-governmental organizations who are committed to contribute to this mission, plus private sector and state, public sector.
Right.
So from here you can see it's a huge grand initiative involving many stakeholders, participants. You have to be able to coordinate or be part of this big process. So that's the thing I would like to emphasize when Mars V team is committed to contribute on their own way to this global project.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for that. And the last question in our panel discussion goes to both of our panelists. And it is, what is the importance of Mongolia's contribution to Mars and space exploration? What is our value proposition? And last but not least, how can we all benefit from this?
Yeah, first of all, this Mars V project in Mongolia, initiated by Mongolian youth, highly committed to contribute to the global mission. So it's an initiative which comes from bottom to up. That's why it's so important. There is a huge desire and contribute to this mission. So that's the first value I think Mars V project can bring into the global mission. And of course, our natural value could be the unique environment, geological environment, Gobi Desert, which is believed to be much closer to Mars environment than any other part on Earth.
Right.
And then extreme climate in Mongolia, below and above zero, 80 or 90 degrees difference.
Right.
Extreme climate can be an experimental platform for research and study in order to reach Mars. And that is the value Mongolia can contribute to this endeavor. And I think another value Mongolians can bring into this global mission is that agility of Mongolian people. Nomadic in nature, Mongolian people are extremely adaptable and agile, flexible, and fast decision makers in extreme environment, as we described in Gobi Desert, when there is almost no vegetation, no water. How nomadic people manage to survive, not only to survive, but prosper, taking care of livestock and prospering. So I think that's the skill. Agile skill could be useful for the astronauts,
In the mission to Mars?
Yeah, who are going to Mars.
Right.
So that's the value we can bring to this mission.
That's great. Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to have you here.
Merry Christmas and Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. My first question is for you, Mr. Batorgul. Mongolia is now striving to find its place in the space industry among many developed and developed nations in the world. Our main goal is to encourage cooperation between nations, but there are of course dozens of all other Mars analog sites in the world. In your opinion, what are the competitive advantages of Mongolia in the space industry?
Of course, right now our nation doesn't have any high-tech space technology to compete. However, we have our own contributive ways to participate. That is our nature, the landscape, geophysics, as well as Mongolia's long-standing position of a neutral, politically neutral country for everyone. We don't have like enemies. We don't have any terrorist attacks or any turmoils. We're a very peaceful, calm country to host this magnificent project, and it's a safe place for all participating bodies to place here. And we're not antagonizing with any countries in the world, so we are open to everyone to come here. The aim of this project is not to deplete the Earth and move to Mars. The idea is to love and protect our Earth through the prism of exploring Mars. So Mongolia in these terms is very suitable. And there are many aspects of very low density of population. There are places in Mongolia and Gobi where no living creatures around, not mentioning people. So there are no flying routes for aircrafts. So Mongolia has a very advantageous position to support the satellite maintenance and supervision. Mongolia is extended from west to east. So most of the satellites orbits are that way, right? So it's very advantageous position to observe the skies.
One of the main projects of Mars is to develop a technological free zone. This is mainly a geopolitical issue. As a senior lawyer at an international law firm, you must have some insight in that area. What is the importance of Mongolia participating in establishing a space technology free zone in the Gobi? And what could be the spillover effects into society and the country on a broader level?
It is a very ambitious project, not only for this nation, but for the entire humankind. So there are many ways it's going to affect us, and it's reciprocal. Mongolia is going to benefit not only in the regional wise but nation wise. We are going to shift from our brown economy towards the green economy, knowledge-based economy, as well as strategic wise. It is a possibility for us to turn our shortcomings into an advantage. For example, usually it is a hindrance for novelties to enter say the previous kind of generation of technology needs to be replaced, but return on investment not there yet. So it becomes an economical obstacle to introduce new technology. So in Mongolia, we don't have this technology at all, so which is like a greenfield project, and we can introduce the latest technology from the ground zero. So this is an advantage of this. So it is a strategy like how to make a lemonade out of a lemon. And on Mars, the situation is very similar to Mongolia. The extreme temperatures, dust storms, and it's a great opportunity to test it in Mongolia before we try it somewhere on Mars, right? So on the other hand, it's also a great opportunity to test, let's say, Mars constitution in Mongolia. Because we're going to send these men and women to Mars who are risking their lives for humankind. And we shall not jeopardize their lives and their efforts.
Definitely.
For, say, some national or local conflicts. They shouldn't affect those who are on the way to Mars, right? So Mongolia is a great playground scientifically and also like just for a humankind to test those legal, how to say, real legal situation to model it in Mongolia before we send someone to Mars.
With reaching Mars right around the corner, a large number of aspiring youth have dedicated their lives to Mars exploration for the potential to go there in the future.
And I'm so excited to invite Elisa Carson. Are you ready to meet Elisa Carson? I hope you are, and she is the first person to land on Mars.
So let's check it out.
Mars on Earth International Digital Conference, Mars V.
Hi, my name is Elisa Carson, and ever since I was a little girl, I have always been interested in wanting to become an astronaut and the idea of traveling to Mars one day. Looking back, I don't remember everything in my childhood, but the best guess I can really come up with, and same for my dad, the best thing that he can kind of come up with, is that it might have been an episode of The Backyardigans, which is this little cartoon I used to watch all the time on Nickelodeon, and basically they had a Mission to Mars episode. And I even had the poster for that episode, Mission to Mars, hung up in my bedroom. And it's really the only place we can think of as to where I would have heard the word Mars or space or anything like that. So that's kind of where my passion for space began, really just starting to ask questions about space and Mars. And I've developed a love for space and passion for it and wanting to pursue some sort of career in it ever since. So I really started out by just asking for any information I could get about space, whether that was going to the library and looking for books or videos or posters, anything like that. I eventually got the opportunity to go to space camp in Huntsville, Alabama, which was really amazing. And there it was just where I kind of flourished in learning all this information about space, history of space, the future of space, building my own model rocket, playing astronaut, all these really fun things. But that really helps me explore what I would actually want to do in space and what was actually going on in the space industry and what opportunities were there. So kind of growing up, I continued to go to different camps along the way. Space camp in Izmir, Turkey, space camp in Laval, Canada, Virginia Space Flight Academy, just all sorts of different things to kind of learn as much as I could about what was going on in the space industry and what opportunities there were to kind of help me figure out what I wanted to do. From then on, I eventually joined Project POSSUM, which is a citizen science research organization. So POSSUM actually stands for Polar Suborbital Science in the Upper Mesosphere, which basically just means that we do science, especially dealing in the atmosphere, but we do all sorts of other science as well. So for example, with Project POSSUM, I've been able to do some really amazing research opportunities such as microgravity flights, water survival training, G-force training, decompression, spacesuit evaluations. We work a lot with Final Frontier spacesuit design, which has been really awesome. So that's been a really amazing opportunity I've been able to have doing real life research while in high school and now in college. So currently I am a sophomore in college studying astrobiology at Florida Tech in hopes to be an astrobiologist and then in turn applying that into space. So ever since I was little, I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do, kind of landed on astrobiology, and then since then I've been building a resume and building up those skills to eventually apply to the astronaut selection process. So that's kind of my goal and kind of how I've gotten to this point. And so a little bit about what's actually going on right now in the space industry and kind of the hopes for the future. So looking right now, the plans, or the current plans really, are to go back to the moon sometime in the 2020s and then on to Mars in the 2030s. So that is kind of the time frame that we're hoping for. There's a brand new rocket, the SLS Space Launch System, and Orion capsule. Both of those are going to be new to the space industry once they are fully built and prepared and ready for humans to take flight. And those are going to be the components that are going to get us to Mars for the first time. So that's all really exciting. There's a whole lot of science to be done in terms of Mars and also going back to the moon. Going back to the moon is really going to be a lot of just testing and learning about the new rocket, how it works. Is it safe for people? Is it capable of even bringing us to the moon? If it can't get us to the moon, then it most likely can't bring us to Mars. So that's really going to be the whole point of the Artemis program, which we will start seeing more development in the next coming years. But really the grand scheme of things for a mission to Mars is that we would have this brand new rocket bring us to Mars, which should take around 6 months or so. And then once the astronauts are actually on Mars, they'll spend around a year there doing all sorts of science, research, all of the typical things you would picture an astronaut doing on the red planet. But at the same time, they'll also be doing a lot of housekeeping, whether that's changing air filters or maintaining some sort of garden to have a better food supply and those sorts of things. And that's really going to be what the astronauts are doing while they are on Mars, hopefully learning lots of amazing things. The goal with Mars is that we have so many crazy ideas of colonizing Mars, terraforming Mars, yet we really need a better understanding of how realistic those goals are and what we can actually do with them. Eventually, the astronauts will come back, 6 to 9 month journey back, and then that will be the end of that mission. So a lot of exciting things to look forward to in the space industry, as well as the idea of commercial space coming into play. You know, SpaceX has now sent astronauts to space, which has been really exciting. But it's going to be really interesting to see all of that develop, whether SpaceX continues to send astronauts to the International Space Station, whether SpaceX has ideas of going to Mars, Virgin Galactic with space tourism. It's going to be a whole lot of space coming up in the next few years. So that should be something really excited, especially for those who are interested in pursuing some sort of space career. So the good thing to hear really is that there is going to be a whole lot of opportunities within the space industry. I definitely think that with going back to the moon coming up soon, eventually going to Mars coming soon, as well as SpaceX, Virgin, Blue Origin, not to mention all the other companies, and globally as well, how active we are being in space right now. So I truly believe that we're going to be getting to a point where there's more astronauts, more jobs in space, more talk of space, so that's all really exciting. So if you are someone who is interested in pursuing some sort of space career, I can give you some advice in that, or honestly, it definitely can relate towards any dream whatsoever or any career here on Earth as well. But I want to give a few tips that I've learned through my experiences and hopefully share it with you guys. So definitely the first step is really just deciding what you want your dream to be. There are so many different choices of what we can actually do with our lives, and so a lot of times that can be super intimidating, but it's all about what you're passionate about. I definitely think that it's totally worth being obsessed with whatever you're going into and enjoying what you do. So I do think that we all have a passion for something or an interest for something that we can pursue, and you can kind of look back at school, you know, what are you more interested in, what subjects are you interested in, because something like math can be a math teacher versus an engineer, which are two very different things but both involve math. So you can kind of adventure to all sorts of different careers, especially looking within the space industry. There's a lot of careers that we don't typically think of but are definitely there. You definitely do not have to study some sort of science or STEM major to actually be involved with space. There's a whole lot of psychology involved, journalism, and so much more other majors that you can actually apply to space. There's someone who has to prepare all the food that goes up to the astronauts. There's someone who has to study the food psychology and what astronauts eat and what they eat and when they eat it and how that affects them. So there's a whole lot of opportunities that you guys can look into to actually start finding what you're interested in. So look to kind of connect, you know, if you're interested in food but also interested in space, figure out ways to connect those to do something that you're really going to love. The second bit of advice I can really give you is really to be vocal about what your dreams are. It's so important to tell people what you're interested in doing because you never know where those opportunities are going to come from. So let's say, for example, you're interested in robotics and eventually want to pursue space robotics. That was something totally awesome. And even when you're young, you can get involved in building your own robot, going to robotics competitions, which is already going to start building your resume and getting you well along into a career in robotics. But while you're at those robotics competitions, it's important to tell someone like, hey, yeah, I love building robots, and in the future I hope to get involved in space robotics. And even that little statement or telling someone a little thing that you might be interested in space robotics, they could say, oh, I happen to know someone who knows someone who's interested in space and works in the industry, or someone who actually does that as a job. So you really never know where those opportunities are going to come from. So I really want to encourage you to be vocal about your dreams and tell everyone what you want to do. I know that when I was younger, saying I want to be an astronaut and go to Mars, it sounded like the absolute most crazy thing, but I promise it's becoming more and more of a reality the more I've worked towards it. So don't be afraid to tell people what you want to do, because if it is something that you're passionate about, then you can definitely make it a reality. Now, the third topic that I really want to touch on here is the importance of having some sort of support system or some sort of person in your life that is there to tell you that you can keep going and tell you that you can get to where you want to be. For me, it was really my dad, because when I was younger, saying that I wanted to be an astronaut and go to Mars, he was super encouraging of just telling me, yes, you can do whatever you want to do, and he didn't really have anything else to say but support me and go to camps with me, travel with me, and all of that. So that's been really amazing to have just a constant support. So looking at your own life, whether that is a parent or a friend or a teacher, it really can be anyone, but just having someone to kind of be by your side or every now and then just tell you, yeah, you got this, or have some sort of support can make a huge difference. There's so many different things that we do that has been, that we really need support to kind of help us along. Even in a lot of the different trainings or research that I've done, it's always been amazing to have either like a team member or someone just encouraging you along the way. So I'd really urge you to find someone in your life to really support you in what you're doing to help you follow your dreams, but also remember that it's important that you possibly could be that person for someone else. So continue to look for that person to help support you in your dreams, or if you've already found them, really keep them close, because it makes a huge difference when you're going after your dreams. But I definitely believe that we can all accomplish our own dreams in our own way. We have so many big ideas and big dreams that we want to accomplish. For example, like the mission to Mars is a very large dream, but we do it with thousands and thousands of people all around the country contributing to make that a reality, and they're even working today, even though that the mission is several years away. So there's a whole lot of hard work that goes into achieving dreams, and whether that is pursuing a career or taking up a new position at your job that you already have, or starting a new project, a new goal, whatever it may be, all these things can kind of contribute to that and really make it feel more realistic and something that you can do. Just remember that if you're passionate about it, if it's something that you really want to do, you can achieve it. So really follow your dreams. Never let anyone take your dreams away from you. And yeah, really just stick with it, because you never know where those opportunities or where you might lead to. So yeah, I just really want to encourage you to stick with whatever your dreams are. I think that the worst is to look back and regret on it. So even though it may sound crazy, absolutely go for it. And yeah, continue to hopefully support the space industry. It is really amazing to see space becoming slightly more trendy recently, so that's been really amazing to see. So I really loved seeing public support, because I truly believe that we can't do anything in the space industry without that. So continue to follow your own dreams, support space, and I hope to see you guys either working in the space industry or achieving whatever your dreams may be.
That was great talk. By the way, how long has Elisa been in astronaut training?
I believe she has been in astronaut training since she was 13.
So proud of her.
Yeah, me too. I believe there are lots of boys and girls today watching us who dream of becoming an astronaut one day. And I'm really interested to know how the astronaut training, the astronaut selection processes go.
Me too. And to answer exactly that question, we are going to invite an astronaut trainee who works with the European Space Agency, Camille Fournier, joining us from France. Bienvenue.
Hello everyone, my name is Cam Fournier and I come from La and I am very happy to be able to talk to you despite the current sanitary condition. So, a little bit about me. I'm 19 years old and I am a student in physics at the University of Savoy in France. I am planning to do a master and then a PhD in astrophysics, specialized in cosmology. In addition, I'm pursuing a training to become an astronaut and to realize my dream of setting foot on Mars. And today, I'm going to talk briefly about the training that aspiring astronauts takes to prepare for Mars. So, at these conferences, you must already realize that the red planets make people around the world dream. This increased interest in Mars is leading to the formation of a new generation of enthusiasts, and we call it the Mars generation. I am a part of this generation that sees in Mars immense possibilities for humanity and preparing for the future of space exploration. Among these people, we find the aspirant astronauts. However, the selection to become an astronaut are really tough and reputed to be the most complicated. In fact, 10,000 to 20,000 people apply in each NASA recruitment campaign. And at the end of the selection process, less than 0.1% of candidates are selected by NASA to begin astronaut training. And it is also a similar case for the European Space Agency ESA, JAXA, and other space agencies around the world. So, to understand our training, I will tell you first a little bit about the training that astronauts and the astronaut candidates during recruitment selections follow. So, to begin, in short, to be an astronaut, you need to have a good view, 10 on 10. Have a good psychology and way of thinking. Be attentive and able to concentrate in any situation without ever being overwhelmed by emotions. Possess a very solid academic record. Have the appropriate age. Have a minimum of a master's degree in science or 1,000 hours of piloting experiences. And to verify its condition there, at the time of the selection by the space agencies, the candidates are subjected to various tests. Psychological test, logical test, physical test, and I forgot some for sure because the selection can last up for 1 year. So this is the dream job to which I aspire as well as all the aspirants. But we have therefore adapted to face this wall in order to maximize our chances. So I would like to make it clear that we are outside of any organization that trains us in all areas for the selection. Given that, each case of aspiring astronaut is different because we do not have all the same means. So I will tell you about my experiences and the different trainings I'm pursuing. So for my part, I started to prepare for the selection in 2016 by doing some psychological tests that I found in books. And afterwards, I learned a lot about the different selection tests and I adapted my training according to them. So an astronaut must be comfortable scuba diving because most of NASA's training is done in a specialized pool. So I started by taking an advanced diving courses and I got my diploma for diving at a depth of 20 meters. In addition, an astronaut can be chosen by his skills in piloting an airplane. I am therefore training to obtain my private pilot license. ESA has a program called CAVES, which take place in a cave for 2 weeks where astronauts have to get used to being alone in a cramped place. So I'm therefore pursuing caving courses in different caves in France. Skydiving and survival in extreme conditions are also proposed trainings, and they are next on my list of things to do. There is also learning foreign languages, because it's also a part of the process. So I speak French fluently, and I'm learning English Spanish, Russian, and I hope that I could learn a lot of other languages, but it's really complicated to learn everything. And also, there are infrastructure called Space Camp, which gives a good estimate of the astronaut job during training courses, etc. There are some around the world, and for my part, I had the opportunity to train in one of them, the Aerospace Center in Belgium. And this center represents a good training for the future of our job. But I'm not the only one who does this training. Hundreds of people from all over the world are actually preparing for Mars. And we are fortunate that plans for Mars revolve around colonization and not just exploration. Because colonization will allow us to bring more people to the planet and thus allow greater accessibility to the profession of our dream. So, we are aspiring astronauts who will all give their all to make their dream come true by carrying out a whole range of training and education to obtain qualification essential to the astronaut profession. You can therefore see that the future is there in the end of a whole generation, ready to make all the sacrifices for the evolution of the human species and its knowledges. I would like to say a big thank you for Mars V, who will help me with my dream and actually help me with these conferences and next my training in Gobi Desert and soon in Mongolia. Thank you so much everyone for following what I had to tell you, and I leave you with the rest. See you on Mars!
You know, it's absolutely inspiring to see the amount of work and dedication put in by the Mars generation to their preparations for future Mars missions.
It's astonishing. And that dedication is shown by our next speaker, Linda Raimondo. As part of her astronaut training, she spent a prolonged period of time in a cave, just like what Camille is trying to do. Just imagine yourself living in a cave in that close space.
I can't, so let's check it out.
Right?
Hi everyone. Before starting, I really want to thank you all for having me today. It's a very big pleasure to me being here and being part of the Mars 5 project. Unfortunately, we still cannot meet in person, but we all know what the global circumstances are, and we know that it's better staying away today for staying much closer tomorrow when this global pandemic will hopefully be gone. For starters, I want to briefly introduce myself. My name is Linda Raimondo, I'm 21 years old and I'm from Italy. I would say that I have two different lives. In the first one, I'm a student and I'm studying my bachelor in physics. My plan for the near future is the one to go abroad for my master and my PhD studies. I want to study in different nations because I think that nowadays it's important being as international as possible. And then because I love challenges and I want to see how far I can push myself with my own strengths. On the other side, my second life is the one more public, the one in which I'm a science communicator and a public speaker. My greatest goal for the future is the one to become an astronaut. And I think that my two lives put together can help me reach it in some way. But now let's stop talking about myself and let's talk about the reason why I am here today. Let's talk about space, about its exploration and about its importance in our everyday life. We all know that space exploration is probably the greatest challenge of humanity. Space is an unfriendly, harmful and dangerous place, but nevertheless we still want to go there. We still want to explore it. We still want to push ourselves farther and farther. The question might be why? Well, my personal answer to the question is that It's in our nature of human beings having the will to explore new places, to discover new worlds, to overcome our own limits. Also, the great Tsiolkovsky, who was one of the fathers of modern astronautics, used to say, "The Earth is the cradle of humanity, but mankind cannot stay in the cradle forever." And honestly, I couldn't agree more with him. We are human beings and we are made for challenging ourselves. So that's the reason why we still want to go to space. But then there is also another reason that probably is even more important than the first one. And the second reason is that the outer space might represent our future home in the next years. We live in a century in which our mother spaceship Earth is overexploited, and we need to find a solution to that overexploitation as soon as possible. And maybe that solution lies exactly in space. Moon, Mars, the near planets and also asteroids might represent a precious mine for the old humanity. In the last 50 years, we did incredible things and we achieved great progresses in space exploration. We went to the moon, we reached other planets thanks to different probes and rovers. And we also landed on an asteroid. And today we are living at the beginning of a new golden era for the space exploration. An era in which space will not be too far from us anymore. An era in which we, as humankind, all together, will send the first human being to Mars and maybe farther. And honestly, I'm incredibly excited while saying those things because I want to be an active part of this change. I want to be an active part of this challenge. Sending humans to another planet so far from our Earth, like Mars, will be the greatest challenge ever, not only in terms of technological development, but also in terms of human factors. The main reason why I am so in love with all those stuff concerning astronautics is that I truly think that space exploration is not only about space, but it is also and probably mostly about the human nature. Going to space means study in the deepest way possible our nature in terms of physiology and psychology. The hardest problem for an engineer is not about the technology needed to reach the stars, for reaching the stars. It's not about the broken piece of a probe. The greatest problem for an engineer is about the human psychology, a factor that none an engineer nor anybody else can control. Astronauts have to work in highly unusual environments where they must withstand multiple stressors. Of course, they are well prepared and in their background they have thousands of hours of training. But here on Earth it is impossible to reproduce an environment which is 100% equal to the one in space. And when the astronauts get to space, they will always have to face with some unexpected events. Human psychology is probably the most complex and mysterious thing on Earth. We cannot predict in any way how it can react during dangerous events, and even if astronauts are super well trained, they will always remain human beings. So, sending humans to Mars means that those persons will have to live for many months in a closed environment, with always the same mates who are also part of the crew. And if they become homesick or earthsick in that case, they cannot just look out of the window and see a blue sky or a red sunset. They cannot go out and breathe deeply. They are obliged to remain in that closed space without the chance to go back home. And we don't know how a human mind can react in such a stressful and hard environment. In all those years, many studies have been conducted and many others are in work in progress here on Earth and on board the space station. In this framework, analog missions have a fundamental importance for the ongoing searches, because they represent the only way we have to understand a bit better all those things that we still don't know precisely. Those analog missions allow us to prepare the future astronauts in the best way we can, and will have a central role for the next crews of astronauts going to Mars. And it's for this exact reason that I am really excited about the Mars 5 project in the Gobi Desert. I think that it will represent an important milestone for the next generations of astronauts. And honestly, I couldn't be more happy, more proud and happier of being part of this team. So thank you again.
Astronaut training does seem like a lot to take in at first glance.
No, Linda actually speaks 5 languages and she's a public speaker. These girls are so incredible, they will definitely be the face of future Mars exploration.
I can't argue with that. So, this is marking the end of the second part of the conference. So you know what? Let's head back down to the stage.
Let's do it.
Mars on Earth International Digital Conference, Mars V.
Тэгэхээр яг энэ үлэг гөрүүлийн судалгаа, ялангуяа үлэг гөрүүлийн олдор цуглуулгаараа Монголын говь бол үнэхээр дэлхийд ховорхон газар. Ер нь бол одоо хэдэн жилийн өмнө бол дэлхий дээр үлэг гөрүүлийн олдор болдог 3 том цэг байна гэж үздэг байсан. Олноороо олддог. Тэрнээс одоо хагас дутуу олдор бол хаанаас ч олдож байна л да. Түүний нэг нь бол яг хургуул Монголын говь буюу Монголын одоо нэмэгдийн өвөрт байдаг тэр бүлэг олдорт газруудаа хэлдэг байсан. Тэгээ яг хургуул би бол одоо жишээлбэл 2012 онд шиг санагдаж байна. NASA-гаас тийм одоо юу хөлөг Марс дээр буугаад одоо хэмэл агуулсан тийм ээ. Тэгээ маш тийм наривчлалтай нэг юм зураг авсан байдаг да та нараа үзсэн баг. Тэр зургийг анхаарал бол би яг л манай говийн зураг авсан юм шиг л харагдажсэн л да. Бүр ингээд тэр геологийн тогтцсон тэр яг одоо нэг наривчлалтай зураг болохоор бүр яг ингээд нүдээр харж байгаа юм шиг харагдажсэн. Тэгээд их олон ямаараа бол яг л одоо манай тэр нэмэгт гэдэг юм уу Далтайн цаадах говьд байдаг эртний хурдс илэрсэн тийм газруудтай их төстэй харагдажсэн. Тэгэхээр бол яг руу одоо хэрвээ Марстай холбоотой их дэлхий дээр одоо ямарваа нэгэн тийм одоо судалгаа жилгээ хийхэд бол их дэлхий дээр одоо дасгал сургууль хийдэг ч одоо зүгээр сансан нисгэж байгаа хүн ч гэсэн одоо хийсээр ирсэн. Тэгэхээр тэрнтэй адилхан хэрвээ тиймэрхүү одоо сургуулалт хийх юм уу эсвэл одоо заавал одоо хүн болгон дээр Марс дээр очиж үзэх болцоо бас муу шүү дээ. Тийм учраас тэрийг одоо төлөөлөх тийм газар нутаг бол яарахгүй одоо манай одоо бидний олдор цуглуулга олдог тэр олдорт газрууд маань их төстэй санагдаж байгаа юм л да. Тэгэхээр ийм ажлыг ер нь хийх хэрэгтэй байх л гэж би бодож байна. Яг тэгэхээр эн чинь ер нь бол одоо хүн төрлөختөн чинь сансрыг эзэмшээд сансар дээр бүр хүнээ нисгсэн бол хэдхэн жил байна шүү дээ 50-60 жилийн л түүхтэй. Тэгээд нэг хэсэг бол бас нэлээд тийм эрчимтэй явж байгаад одоо ингээд бас жаахан тийм суларч байгаад одоо жаахан итгэж шиг байна. Ер нь бол бололцоотой орнууд бол ер нь одоо саяхан хүртэл одоо манай урд хөрш хүртэл одоо сарлуу одоо бүр дээж авахаар явдаа шүү дээ. Энд чинь дээж авна гэдэг чинь бол бас судалгаа хийх гэлээ шүү дээ. Тэгэхээр ийм судалгаа бол байх зайлшгүй байх хэрэгтэй. Зүгээр ийм бололцоо бол манай энэ нутагт маань Монгол нутагт маань байгаа гэдэг бол их чухал байна л да. Тэгэхээр энэ бололцоог бол бид ашигласан зүйтэй. Гэхдээ энийг одоо хийхэд бол энэ бол бас том ажил, том төсөл болно гэж би бодож байна. Та нарын одоо танилцуулгаас сонсоод. Тэгэхээр энэ дээр бол бас нэг юм хийхэд нөгөө юм бас мартаж болохгүй. Ягаад гэвэл одоо палеонтологч бид нар бол тийм олдорт газруудыгаа бол ерөөсөө одоо маш тийм одоо нууцлагдмал тийм одоо ховор нандин баримтуудыг хадгалсан тийм судар бичиг шиг ойлгодог юм байна. Тэр чинь ягарахгүй ингээ нарийн ажиллах юм бол тэр эртний үе тохирцооч яг нэг номын хуудас шиг ингээ үйл тогтсон байдаг. Тэгэхээр тэр үйл тогтсон тэр одоо номын хуудасаа бол бид нар одоо бас тийм том ажил хийх хажуугаар бас одоо гэмтэх тийм ээ эсвэл одоо устгаж болох хүний хөлөөр сүйтгэгдэх янз бүрийн тийм юм бол маш их анхаарах хэрэгтэй. Тэгэхээр ер нь түрүүн би хэлсэн ерөөс дэлхийд 2-3 газар байдгийн нэлээд тийм баялагтай төвлөрсөн газруудын нэг нь Монгол учраас энэ бол хүм одоо монголчууд бидний ч одоо үүрэг биш. Энэ бол дэлхийн нийтийн хүндрэлтийн өмнө бидний хөлөөс үүрэг байх хэрэгтэй. Энийгээ хадгалах хэрэгтэй, хамгаалах хэрэгтэй. Монгол бол ерөөсөө тэр энэ одоо палеонтологийн чиглэлийн одоо дэлхийн судалгааны төв болох энэ одоо монголчууд асар том өргөн удам нутагтай учраас энэ чинь нэг газар дээр нь хамгаална гэдэг бол аюу хасрагдаад байгаа Монголын хувьд бол. Тэгэхээр чинь энийг бол хамгаалах ганцхан л арга бол эзэмжүүлэх. Эзэмжүүлнэ гэдэг чинь одоо өөрөлдөх юм бол анх энэ одоо палеонтологийн үлгэрийн олдорт газрыг бол Англид одоо Badland гэж нэрлэдэг байсан. Муу газар гэж. Өөрөлдөх бол үржижимгүй газар. Яагаад гэвэл тэнд чинь хөрс байхгүй, эртний хурц илэрсэн газар байхгүй. Тэгэхээр тийм газар дээр байдаг учраас тэнд чинь нэг ярих юм бол манайх малчид хүртэл баг тэр ойрхон очиж нутгалдгүй зэлүүд эзгүй газар байдаг. Тэгэхээр ийм газрыг бол эзэмжүүлнэ гэдэг маань юу гэвэл ямарваа нэгэн одоо жишээлбэл аялал жуулчлалын бүтээгдэхүүн болох уу эсвэл одоо та бүхний ярьж байгаа шиг одоо тийм тэр төстэй байдлын ашиглаад тэр одоо сансар түн нисгэх тийм бэлтгэл сургуулийн газар болох уу. Тэгээ тиймэрхүү маягаар эзэнтэй л болох хэрэгтэй байна. Тэгэх юм бол эзэнтэй юм бол хязгаарч тэгж хууль бус малтлагч гэдэг юм уу? Янз бүрийн тийм эвдэж хэмгэлдэг тийм юм бол байхгүй болно да. Тэгээд дээр нь хэрвээ тэнд нь газар дээр нь тийм дэд хүчүүд хөгжөөд ирэх юм бол энэ шинжлэх ухаан бол одоо өстой нөгөө миний мөрөддөг тэр дэлхийд гарах тийм гарц үг таалга нэгдэл.
Археологийн шинжлэх ухаан гэдэг бол хүн төрөлхтний эртний түүхийг судлан шинжилж эдвэлгийн зүйлсээр түүнийг баримтжуулан гаргаж ирдгээрээ бол үнэхээр ач холбогдолтой байдаг. Яагаад тэгэхээр бичиг үсэг үүсгэхээс өмнөх түүхийг баримтжуулан гаргаж ирнэ гэдэг бол археологийн шинжлэх ухаан буюу археологчдын үүрэг байдаг. Ялангуяа Монголын археологийн шинжлэх ухаан бол үнэхээр хамгийн чухал ажиллаа хийдэг. Яагаад тэгэхээр монголчуудын буюу нүүдэлчдийн одоо түүхийг өгүүлэх судраг бичиг одоо бичгийн сурвалжууд тун ховор байдаг учраас бид бүхэн энийг судлан шинжилж жинхэнэ эдвэлгийн зүйлсээр энэхүү орон зайг нөхөх мөн одоо хөрш зэрэгэлдээ улсад байгаа тэр сурвалжийн мэдээнүүд үнэхээр үнэн бодиттой байна уу? Энд бид бүхэн ямар нэгэн байдлаар одоо дүн шинжилгээ анализ хийж өөрсдийнхөө түүхийг үнэн зөвөр бодиттойгоор гаргаж ирэх хамгийн чухал ач холбогдолтой байдаг. Тэгээ нүүдэлчдийн хувьд үнэхээр нүүдэлчч гэхгүй ер нь дэлхийн хүн зоны түүхэнд бол дандаа л сансар огторгой буюу тэдний нүдэн дээр ил харагдж байсан зүйлс тайлагдахгүй зүйл маань одоо эртний улмөр болон үлдсэн байдаг. Тэгээ нүүдэлчдийн хувьд бол нөгөө ертөнц буюу шүтлэгийн хувьд бол огторгой ертөнцийн тухай ойлголтыг заавал агуулсан байдаг л да. Бидний одоо ойлгож байгаа энэ хадны зураг дээр бол янз бүрийн одоо итгэхэд одоо дүрстэй баг маскнууд байдаг. Энийг зарим судлаачид болон зарим одоо сонирхогчид бол энийг хариг гарагтай холбож тайлбарладаг. Гэхдээ үнэндээ бол энэ хариг гараг гэхээс илүүтэйгээр үнэхээр судалгааныхаа төвшөнд бид бүхэн энийг бол тухайн үеийн нэгэн нүүдэлчид Овг аймгийнхны өөрсдийнхөө дүрсэлсэн нөгөө ертөнцийн тухай ойлголт мэдэж чадахгүй байсан зүйлээ шашны одоо юугаа тэнд гаргасан зүйл болов уу гэж бид бүхэн боддог. Түүнээс гадна хадны зураг дээрээс гадна бид бүхний сайн мэддэг хэрэгсүүр гэдэг томоохон дурсгал байдаг. Тэр хэрэгсүүрийг бол бас зарим судлаачид бол үүнийг бол одоо хот гарагс буюу одоо нөгөө ертөнцийг одоо харуулах одоо чулуугаар хийсэн гайхамшигт чулуун байгууламжууд гэж ойлгодог. Үнэхээр ч тийм байх боломжтой л да. Ягаад тэгэхээр энэ дурсгал өөрөө янз бүрийн одоо байрлал дээр байгаа жижиг чулуун байгууламжууд болон төв одоо томоохон чулуун овгороо түүнийг дагсан олон одоо сателлит маягийн одоо чулуун байгууламж эдрийг бол одоо нарийн математик аргачлалаар бодож хүртэл судалсан эрдэмтэд байдаг. Мөн одоо бугуун хөшөө хэмээн хөрөл зэвсгийн үеийн бас нэгэн дурсгал дээр одоо манай судлаачид тэр буг буюу одоо янз бүрийн загварчилсан маягаар дүрсэлсэн энэ буг бол одоо нөгөө ертөнц огторгуу руу тэмүүлж байгаа. Энэ бол нөгөө ертөнцид талигачийн одоо сүнсийг хүргэж их унаа болж байна гэсэн ийм маягаар тайлбарлах. Ерөнхийдөө нүүдэлчдийн оршуулгын зан үйл, нүүдэлчдийн энэ ертөнцийг үзэх үзлийг бол дандаа энэ талаас нь өнцгөөс нь тайлбарладаг. Яагаад энэ бол хэн нэгэн одоо зохиож байгаа зүйл биш л дээ. Энэ бол 19-р зууны үеийн ухсаатан зүйн мэдээнүүд дээр яг үнэхээр нөгөө ертөнцийн тухай ойлголтыг их тодорхой өгүүлсэн байдаг. Тийм учраас энийг одоо эрт эдгүүгийн одоо түүхэн баримттай холбон тайлбарлах юм бол үнэхээр тийм байх магадлал байдаг. Жишээлбэл ухсаатан зүйн мэдээ баримтан дээр хүн талигачийг одоо өнгөрөхөд одоо явган сууж одоо бүх болохгүй гэсэн малгайгаа буруудаж нь харуулна. Эсвэл нудрага дотогш нь хийнч гэдэг юм уу. Энэ бол нөгөө ертөнцийн хүн болж одоо одоо нөгөөд хүнийг сүнсийг авч явах хүн болж одоо өөрийнхөө дүрийг хоргож хүртэл ирдэг ийм зан үйлүүд одоо тэмдэглэж үлдсэн байдаг. Тэгэхээр энэ болгон ухсаатны зүй болон археолог одоо энэ болгоныг хооронд нь холбон тайлбарласан зүйлсээс бол үнэхээр нүүдэлчид бол нөгөө ертөнцийн тухай ойлголт, шашин шүтлэг одоо тотем бүх юун дээрээ бол энэ сансар огторгуй нөгөө ертөнцийн тухай ойлголт их байдаг. Ер нь говь нутгийн маань эзэнгүү хоосон гэж л ойлгодог байлаа шүү дээ саяхны хүртэл. Тэгээд бид бүхэн бол 2000 оноос хойш ер нь археологийн судалгааг нэлээд хүчтэй хийсэн. Судалгааны ажлын үр дүнд говь нутаг маань үнэхээр эртний хүмүүс, эртний нүүдэлчид, эртний монголчуудын өлгийн нутаг буюу уугуул нутаг байгаа гэдэг нь бол тодорхой болсон. Энийг бол тодорхой болсон гэхээр бид бүхэн одоо мэдээллийн сан дээр л тулгуурлаж яг дурсгалын тоон үзүүлэлт болон тархалтын хүрээ тухайн дурсгалын хэлбэр англи зүйн асуудал дээр нь ярих юм бол үнэхээр энэ орчинд бол 5000 гаруй дурсгал бол бүртгэгдээд байгаа. Тэгэхээр бид бүхний одоо энэ судалгааны цар хүрээ болон та бүхний одоо хэрэгжүүлж байгаа төсөл хоёр бол үнэхээр уялдаатай байх болно. Яагаад гэхээр миний хувьд бол энэ археологийн дурсгалуудыг өнөөдөр тэр дурсгалыг хадгалах, хамгаалах одоо бусдад таниулах, сурталчлах, олон нийтэд одоо түүнийг түгээн дэлгэрүүлэх, зөв ойлголтыг төрүүлэх гэдэг бол бид бүхний хамтын ажиллагааны үр дүн байх болов уу гэж би бол төсөөлж байгаа. Тийм учраас археологийн дурсгалыг бол өнөөдөр хамгаална, бүтгэнж баримтжуулахаас гадна түүнийг хадгална гэдэг бол үнэхээр том ажил байдаг. Энэ бол хамтын хөдөлмөрийн том төслүүдийн төрийнх болон аж ахуй нэгжүүд, шинжлэх ухааны байгууллагуудын хамтын хөдөлмөрөөр хийнэ үхээс биш. Яг нэг байгууллага, нэг одоо институтийн хийх ажил биш байгаа юм л да. Тэгэхээр энэ бол одоо их сайхан одоо үлгэр жишээ төсөл болно гэдэгт би бол бүрэн итгэлтэй байгаа. Тийм археологчид бол ер нь дурсгалыг яг л биетээр нь барьж гар дээрээ тавьж үзэж эсвэл малтан судалж ижил үр дүнгээ гаргадаг байсан. Сүүлийн үед бид бүхэн одоо зайнаас тандан судлагч юм уу эсвэл одоо өөр технологийн тухай бодож эхэлж байна. Бид бүхэн бас хийж хэрэгжүүлсэн олон олдвор их хэрэглэгдэхүүнээ бид нэр эргэж нэг харах хэрэгтэй юм байна. Бид бүхэн одоо ийм маягаар одоо хөл хорионт ч юм уу одоо ийм газар байх үед бид бүхэн өмнөх судалгаа эргэж нэг хараад судалгаа хийх хэрэгтэй юм байна. Бид бүхэн бэлтгэлтэй байх хэрэгтэй байна гэдэг бодол төрж байна л да. Тэгэхээр шинжлэх ухаан гэдэг бол одоо заавал очиж үзэх, бид нар гараараа барьж үзэх ёстой гэж суугаад байх биш. Харин бид бүхэн энийг ямар нэгэн байдлаар өөр гарц шийдэл олох хэрэгтэй гэдгийг бид нар ойлгож байна. Тэгэхээр магадгүй археологийн судалгаа өнөөдөр маллах судалгааны олон амжилтуудаар дүүрэн байсан бол энэ байдал маань ирээдүйд бид бүхэн одоо тэр малтсан судалснаа олон нийтэд таниулах, одоо сурталчлах, мөн судалгааныхаа ажлыг илүү түвшинд хүргэх, олон улсад мэдээлэх гэсэн иймэрхүү төв рүүгээ орох уу гэсэн тийм томьёо харагдаж байна. Нэг жилийн дотор л бид бүхэн ийм юмыг харж анзаарч байна л да.
Энэ Марс төсөлтэй яг холбоод Марс төслийн энэ концепц өнцгөөс нь говийг авч үзэх юм бол үнэхээр маш чухал концепц гэж харж байгаа. Зөв чухал концепц гэж харж байгаа. Тэгэхээр яагаад тэгэхээр дөнгөж хил гараад одоо энэ Монголын одоо Гоби десерт буюу энэ говь цөл дээр олон ийм scientific tour маягийн төслүүдийг хятадууд хэрэгжүүлж байгаа. Тухайлбал одоо манай одоо тэр хамтарч ажиллаж байгаа хятадын эрдэмтэн судлаачтай хамтраад бид нар Кобучи гэдэг ордост байрлах элсэн цөл байгаа. Энийг бол хэрхэн хүн хэрвээ хүсэх юм бол ногооруулаад давхар аялал жуулчлалыг хөгжүүлж болдгийг бол харуулж чадж байгаа. Дээр нь бол одоо Дунхуа гэдэг одоо торгоны замын одоо баян бүрд байна. Тэрийг мөн адилхан түүх археологийн талын олдврыг яаж одоо дэлхийн нийтэд таниулж чадж байгаа тод жишээ энэ одоо говийн бүс дээр байгаа. Нэг талаасаа ингээд харахаар говийн цөл бол ингээд одоо халуун хүн амьдрахад тохиромжгүй мөртлөөсөө нөгөө талдаа бол тэн дээр хэрвээ дасан зохицох юм зөв бодлогыг явуулах юм бол бид нарт энэ дээр бол амьдрал байх бүрэн боломж байна гэдгийг хэл гараад олон ийм жишээнээс харж болно. Тийм учраас бол энэ говь цөл дээр хэрэгжүүлж байгаа Марс төслийн концепц бол бүрэн хэрэгжих бололцоотой гэж судлаачны хувьд бол харж байгаа юм л да. За манайх 2015 онд цөлжилтийн тархалтын зураг гэж гаргасан. Тэр зургаар бол Монгол орны нийт нутаг дэвсгэрийн 76% нь ямар нэгэн хэмжээгээр цөлжилт газрын дороотолд өртсөн байна гэж гаргасан. Тэгэхээр та сая дурдсан сүүлийн 100 жилд дэлхий 1 градусаар дулаарлаа. Гэтэл Монгол орнд бол одоо бид нар одоо ингээд энэ хэмжилтүүдийг хийж эхэлсэн 1940-од оноос тооцох юм бол үндсэндээ 2.1 градусаар дэлхийгээс даруй 2 дахин илүү юм дулаарл Монгол орнд бий болсон байна гэж судалгаагаар гарсан. За давхар бас энэ хойд хагаст байгаа одоо энэ хангаан бүсэд байгаа цэвдэгтэй газар нутагт бол температур нь 1 градусаар дулаарсан сүүлийн 60 жилд гэсэн ийм тооцоолуудыг гаргасан. Тэгэхээр цөлжилт бол явагдаж байгаа. За энэ нь бол мэдээж олон хүчин зүйл байгаа. Байгалийн дулаарлалтай холбоотой хүчин зүйл. Тэрнээс гадна хүний сөрөг үйл ажиллагаанаас болж энэ үйл явц бол илүү хурдсаж байгаа зүйлсүүд байгаа. Бид бүхэн бол одоо өнөөдөр нэг боломжтой нөхцөл дээр байгаа нь аж үйлдвэрийн 4-р хувьсгал, дижитал хувьсгалыг гэж харж байгаа. За олон одоо 1-р хувьсгал, 2-р хувьсгал, 3-р хувьсгалыг ингээ аваад үзэх юм бол хугацааны хувьд бол сүүлийн хувьсгалууд бол богино хугацаанд явагдаж байгаа. Гэхдээ энэ аж үйлдвэрийн 4-р хувьсгалыг бол яг залуу хүн, судлаач хүний, эрдэмтэн хүний тухайд авахад бол энэ бол бид нар том боломжийг өгж байгаа. Бид нар нэг гараанаас гарах боломжтой юм байна. Энэ бол ухтаа болов оюуны хувьсгал юм байна. Тийм учраас энэ хувьсгалын боломжийг бол манай Монгол залуучууд ашиглах хэрэгтэй гэсэн ийм нэгдүгээр үндсэн зорилго санаа байна. За хоёрдугаарт бол бидний одоо жил болгон дэвшүүлж явдаг нэг үрээ бол ер нь одоо мэдлэгийг нийгэмшүүлэх асуудал бол их чухал болж байгаа. International Science Council-оос ч гэсэн ерөнхийдөө ийм зорилго зорилтыг тавьж ажиллаж байгаа. Та мэдлэгтэй байх юм бол тэр мэдлэгийг хүмүүст одоо хүргэх нь бол хамгийн чухал юм аа. Тэгжиж бүгдөө ашиг шимийг хүртэж бүгдөө тогтвортойгоор урт хугацаанд хөгжих юм аа гэдэг байгаа. Өөрөөр хэлэх юм бол энэ маань бол соён гэгэрүүлэх талын зүйлс рүүгээ илүү нөгөө ашиг байсан бол эхлээ шинэ ухаан гэдэг зүйл бизнесийн одоо моделийг илүү ашигтай болгох тал руу нэг хэсэг хэлбэж явсан бол одоо буцаад бүгдийн соён гэгэрүүлэх одоо тэгшимтэйгээр мэдлэг хүртээх тэрнээрээ бол доктортой хөгжил байгаль дээлтэйгээр усаа хэмндэг ач холбогдлыг ойлгодог ийм тал руугаа явж эхэлж байгаа. Тэгэхээр энэ тал руу бол бид нар өөрт байгаа мэдлэгээ хуваалцах тал руу бол ажиллах ёстой байна гэсэн ийм концепцоор бид нар ажиллаж байгаа. За гурав дахь нэг асуудал бол Монгол улс бол цаашдаа ер нь мэдлэг суурьсан эдийн засгийг хөгжүүлж явах хэрэгтэй. Энэ нь бол 2-3 хүчин зүйлийг дурдахад болж байгаа. Нэгдүгээрт бол хүн ам цөөн. Хөдөлмөрийн тийм учраас хүн ам цөөн орн бол хөдөлмөрийн багтаамжтай бүтээгдэхүүн гэхээс илүү оюуны багтаамжтай бүтээгдэхүүн гаргаж ижил бид нар дэлхийд гарна. Тэр бололцоог бол одоо шинэ ухааны салбар олгоно. Мэдээж бид нар ингээд зэрэгцээ зогсоод 3 сая хүн тэр бум гарan хүнтэй зах зээлтэй ингээд зэрэгцээд ажил хийх юм бол хязгаарч энд бол өрсөлдөх чадвартай байж чадахгүй. Тийм учраас бид нар цаашдаа бол энэ оюуны шавхагддаггүй тэр нөөцөө ашигласан ийм хөгжил рүү явах хэрэгтэй гэсэн санаагаар манай холбоо ажилладаг. Тэгээд тэр болгондоо бол тус тусдаа дуу хоолойгоо хүргээд нарийн судалгаа руугаа бүгдөө бол ороод явж байгаа. Ер нь яг саяын тэр одоо говьтой холбоотой энэ Марс төсөлтэй холбоотой манай хүрээлэн тухайлбал энэ төсөл дээр ямар оролцоотой байж болох вэ гэдэг дээр би 2-3 санал хэлхийг хүсэж байгаа. Нэгдүгээрт бол яг тэр цөлийн бүсэд бол ямар ургамлыг, ямар модыг тармилжуулж болох ёстой юм бэ гэдгийг бид нар одоо судалж байна. Дорногов аймгийн Сөмбөр сум дээр ингээ урт хугацааны мониторинг сайт буюу одоо ингээ судалгааны талбай байгуулад тэгээд эн чинь бол нэг одоо 1 жил судлаа ч юм уу үр дүн гарахгүй тийм учраас урт хугацаанд судалж за ийм хөрс чулуулагтай ийм газар энэ ургамал байгалийн аргаараа ингэж ургах юм байна. Жохон одоо эрдэс бодис ус нэмээд ингэж ургах юм байна гэдэг ийм нарийн технологиудыг гаргаж авдаг. Тэрүүгээрээ бид нар хамтарч болно. Хоёрдугаарт бол хамгийн чухал зүйл бол ус байна. Хүн хаана байна, үйлдвэрлэл хаана явагдана тэнд бол усны хэрэгцээ гардаг. Тэгэхээр говийн бүсэд усаа яаж шийдэх вэ гэдэг асуудал байгаа. Тийм учраас усыг бол хоёр аргаар шийдэх болцоотой. Нэг нь бол одоо тэр говийн бүс рүү гүний усыг ашиглах болцоотой. Тэгэхээр гүний ус нь бол ингээд бид нар сүүлд бол нөгөө эдстопийн аргаар насын тогтоогоод одоо тухайлбал говийн нэг айлын худагт бол нэг 100 гаруй жилийн настай ус байхад жоохон доошоо гүнлүү ингээд өрөмдөд дээж аваад үзэх юм бол нэг 35 мянга 20 мянга 30 мянган жилийн настай уснууд байх жишээтэй. Тэгэхээр тэр наснаасаа болоод чанарууд бас өөр өөр байгаа. Гэтэл бид нар ийм бүр том комплекс чөлөө төсийн хэмжээнд хөгжлүүд яваад дагвар хотын хэмжээнд хөгжлүүд явах юм бол усаа яаж шийдэх вэ гэдэг асуудал гарч ирнэ. Тэрийг бол бид нар гадаргын усаа татах тийм болцоотой тэр техник эдийн засгийн судалгаануудыг бас хийж болно. Гэх мэтлэн энэ төсөл цаашаа урт хугацаанд хөгжихэд бол яа харахгүй энэ шинэ ухаануудын байгууллагын нэгдсэн тийм зохион байгуулалт хэрэгтэй гэдэг нь бол харагдж байгаа. За дараагийн нэг зүйл бол яг манай хүрээлэн дээр remote sensing буюу одоо зайнаас тандан чиглэлийн сектор лаборатори ажилладаг. За мөн одоо газар зүйн мэдээллийн системийн одоо Монголд анх байгуулагдсан лаборатори бас манайд 96 оноос хойш ингээ хөгжиж явж байгаа. Тэр хоёр лаборатори юу хийдэг вэ гэхээр агаар сансрын мэдэн дээр ажиллаж техник технологийн давуу талыг ашиглаж дэлхийн гадаргыг одоо зургалж ялангуяа Монголын одоо энэ уур амьсгалын өөрчлөлт давхар энэ ургамлын индекс ургамлын бүрхэц за дээр нь тэгэл бэлчээртэй ойтой устай гадаргын устай холбоотой бүх тэр тандан судалгааг бол бид нар агаар сансрын мэдэн дээр ашиглаж хийдэг. Тэгэхээр бид нарт нэг дутагдж байгаа зүйл бол Монгол өөрөө хиймэл дагуул байхгүй. Тийм учраас Монголын хиймэл дагуулыг хөөргөх тэр энэ түлхэлтийг бас энэ марш төсөл хийж өгөх байхаа гэж харж байгаа. Бид нар өөрийн гэсэн хиймэл дагуултай бол одоо дэлхийн түвшний судалгааны үр дүнг бол бид нар гаргаж чадхаар тийм одоо ноу хау ур чадварыг одооны манай Монголын энэ залуу эрдэмтэд бол авцсан байгаа.
Аялал жуулчлалын салбар бол дэлхийд дахинд одоо химийн үйлдвэрлэл, эмийн үйлдвэрлэлийн дараа ордог 3 дахь том эдийн засгийн салбар байгаа. За тэгэхээр аялал жуулчлалын салбар маань 2019 онд бол нийт 1.4 тэрбум орчим хүн дэлхийд дахинд аялж 1.7 их 80 орчим ам долларын орлогыг бүрдүүлж исэн. Тэгэхээр энэ салбарт бас 300 орчим сая ажлын байрыг бий болгодог. Тэгэхээр энэ салбар маань өөрөө эдийн засаг, нийгмийн хувьд одоо дээрээс нь соёлын өвийн хамгаалал, шинжилгээ ухаан, судалгааны чиглэлд бол маш их одоо зөвхөн шууд үр өгөөжийг өгөхөөс гадна дам нөлөө ихтэй. За энэ салбарыг дагж хөгждөг маш олон худалдаа үйлчилгээ тээврийн салбарууд байдаг. Тэгэхээр энэ өөрөө бас одоо Монгол улсын ирээдүйн хөгжлийн гол тулгуур салбараа ингэж Монгол улсын засгийн газраас үзэж байгаа. За тэгэхээр Монгол улсын хувьд бол аялал жуулчлал өөрөө гол экспортын уул уурхайн дараа ордог 2 дахь экспортын салбар. За 2019 оны хувьд цар тахлаас өмнөх 2019 оны тоо баримтаар аваад үзэхэд Монгол улсад 577 орчим мянган гадаадын жуулчин аялж за тэдгээрээс Монгол улсын эдийн засагт 1.6 орчим их 80 төгрөгийн орлогыг бүрдүүлсэн байдаг. За дотоодын жуулчдын маань урсгал эдийн засгийн урсгал 800 орчим тэрбумд хүрсэн. Тэгэхээр нийт аялал жуулчлалын эдийн засгийн урсгал маань 2 их 80 төгрөгт хүрж байгаа гэдэг нь яг одоо мал аж ахуйн салбараас бараг илүү гарах хэмжээний ийм салбар. Тэгээ нөгөөдөөгөр цэвэр одоо валютын орлогыг эдийн засагт оруулдаг гэдгээрээ бид нэр цаашдаа яагаад одоо аялал жуулчлалыг хөгжүүлэх ёстой юм бэ гэдэг нь бол ойлгомжтой харагдаж байна гэж ингэж бодож байна. Тэгэхээр аялал жуулчлалын салбар маань өөрөө бас хөрөнгө оруулалтаа Монгол улсад хамгийн хурдан хугацаанд нөхдөг бизнесийн салбар. За нөгөөдөөгөр зам тээвэр, агаарын тээвэр, худалдаа үйлчилгээний салбарын одоо худалдан борлуулалтыг бол 25-аас дээш хувиар буюу бусад одоо эдийн засгийн салбаруудаас хамгийн их хувиар дэмждэг юм салбар байгаа. Тэгэхээр зөвхөн аялал жуулчлалыг хөгжүүлнэ гэдэг нь тухайн нэг салбарын асуудал биш. Үүнийг дагж байгаа бусад салбаруудын эдийн засгийн гарцыг бол одоо маш их хэмжээнд дэмжих боломжтой.
нөгөөтэйгүр одоо Монгол улсад үйлдвэрлэгдэж байгаа брэнд бүтээгдэхүүнүүд те жишээлбэл одоо говийн кашмирч гэдэг юм уу. Энэ салбаруудын дотоодоос бид нар экспортлох боломжийг бүрдүүлж байгаа гол юм салбар. Тэгэхээр бид нар одоо гадагшаа экспортыг хөгжүүлнэ гэж яриад байдаг бол аялал жуулчлалыг хөгжүүлснээр бид нар гадны жуулчдыг авчираад газар дээрээсээ экспорт хийх боломжийг бүрдүүлж байна гэж ингэж ойлгож болно. Тэгэхээр эдийн засгийн хувьд бол бид нар одоо хоёр дахь экспортын салбар урт хугацаанд бараг те уул уурхайн өмнө орох боломжтой ийм потенциал байгаа гэж ингэж үздэг. Тэгэхээр Монгол улсын засгийн газар бол урт хугацаанд болон дунд хугацаанд баримтлах бодлого маань уул уурхайгаас хараат бус эдийн засгийг хөгжүүлэх, эдийн засгийг төрөлжүүлэхэд бол гол чиг хандлага одоо тавьж гин, зорж гин. Тэгэхээр энэ хүрээнд бол аялал жуулчлалын салбарыг бол тэргүүлэх эдийн засгийн нэг салбарын одоо нэг болгож хөгжүүлэхээр ингэж зорьсон. Тэгэхдээ аялал жуулчлалыг хөгжүүлэхийн тулд бид нарт бас анхаарах шаардлагатай асуудлууд байна. За 1957 оноос хойш Монгол улсын аялал жуулчлалын салбар хөгжихдөө уламжлалт аялал жуулчлалын одоо чиглэл хандлагуудыг дагж ингэж хөгжиж ирсэн 60 жилийн одоо түүхэн ийм уламжлал байна. Тэгэхээр энэ бол одоо хөвсгөл горих тэрэлж за тэгээ говийн хідэн аймагуудыг холбосон энэ аялал жуулчлалын үндсэн нэг алтан гурвалжинг барьж хөгжиж ирсэн. Гэтэл цаашдаа бид нар энэ аялал жуулчлалын салбараас бүс нутаг болгон өөрийн онцлогийг одоо давуу талаа болгож аялал жуулчлалын салбараас үр өгөөжийг хүртэх. За дээрэс нь тэр бүс нутагт эдийн засаг нийгмийн хөгжлийг бий болгох. Нөгөөтэйгүр ялангуяа одоо энэ аялал жуулчлалын салбараас тухайн орон нутгийн иргэд өөрөө үр өгөөжийг хүртдэг байх. За түүгээр дамжуулаад тухайн орон нутгийн одоо байгаль, түүх, соёлын үүдийг бид нар хамгаалах, олон улсад сурталчлан таниулах, өвлүүлэх гэдэг энэ асуудлууд бас одоо шинээр бий болж байна. Тэгэхээр Монгол улсын засгийн газар бол цаашдаа бид нар энэ зөвхөн уламжлалт явж байгаа аялал жуулчлалынхаа чиглэл, хандлагуудыг төрөлжүүлэх, за бүтээгдэхүүн үйлчилгээний өөр хоорондоо ялгаатай байдлыг бий болгох. За тэр дундаа бүс нутаг болгон өөрсдөө өөрийн байгаа байгаль, түүх, соёлын онцлогоо давуу тал болгоод тухайн бусад бүс нутгаас одоо ялгаатай хөгжих энэ боломжийг бүрдүүлье гэж ингэж зорьж байгаа. Тэгэхээр энэ хүрээнд бол бид нар одоо Азийн хөгжлийн банкны санхүүжилттэй одоо төсөл хөтөлбөрүүдийг хэрэгжүүлж эхэлсэн. За 2020-24 онд бол бид нар одоо зүүн бүсийн аймагуудад түүхэн аялал жуулчлал, за хөвсгөл чиглэл рүү тогтвортой байгалийн аялал жуулчлал, за баруун бүсийн аймагуд руу энэ Монголын бит бус соёлын өвд тулгуурласан аялал жуулчлалыг хөгжүүлье гэж ингэж зорьж байгаа. Тэгэхээр энэ Марс төсөл маань шинжлэх ухааны аялал жуулчлалыг одоо түшгэлсэн тусгай сонирхлын аялал жуулчлалын төрөл хэлбэрүүдийг говийн бүсийн бүс нутагт одоо чиглүүлэх, татах ийм одоо ач холбогдолтой одоо төсөл болж харагдаж байгаа. Тэгэхээр энэ бол одоо Монгол улсын засгийн газрын аялал жуулчлалын салбарт баримтлах дунд олон урт хугацааны бодлоготой бол шууд одоо бүрэн уялдаж байгаа гэж ингэж үзэж байгаа. Нөгөөтэйгүр бид нар бас Монголын говь гэдэг бол одоо олон улсын аялал жуулчлалын зах зээл дээр ялангуяа одоо энэ шинэ мянганы Z generation millennials гэж байгаа энэ маш их одоо жилдээ 4-5 удаагийн давтамжтай аялдаг болсон энэ зах зээл дээр Монголын говь гэдэг бол одоо яалтчгүй заавал зорчих ёстой нэг топ destination нэг болсон. Тэгэхээр энэ говийг бид нар шинэ одоо бусад говьудаас ялгаатай өнгө төрхөөр зах зээлд санал болгох гэж байна. Энэ бол одоо урт хугацаанд маш их эдийн засгийн үр өгөөжийг тогтмол өгөх боломжийг бид нар бас бий болгож байна гэж ингэж үзэж байгаа. Тэгэхээр энэ төсөл маань одоо аялал жуулчлалын талаасаач, нийгэм эдийн засаг, шинжлэх ухааны талаасаач засгийн газрын үйл ажиллагаа хөтөлбөртөө бүрэн уялдаж байна гэж ингэж үзэж болно. За нөгөөтэйгүр энэ төслийг хэрэгжүүлэх явцад бол бас төсөл маань өөрөө том бүтээн байгуулалтад суйрлалгүй те яг одоо байгаль орчны одоо өнөөгийн байдлыг бүрэн хадгалах, цаашдаа урт хугацаанд сөрөг нөлөөгүй байх, тухайн байгаль орчинд одоо бас байгаль орчны уур амьсгалын өөрчлөлтийг судлах энэ ажлуудыг цогцоор энэ төсөл маань зөвхөн аялал жуулчлал биш те шинжлэх ухааны судалгаатай хамтаар ингэж хийх нөхцөлийг бүрдүүлж байгаа гэдгээрээ одоо төслөөс байгаль орчинд үзүүлэх сөрөг нөлөөлөл тухайн одоо говийн бүс нутагт байгаа тэр байгалийн одоогийн байдлыг цаашдаа урт хугацаанд бид нэр алдагдуулахгүй байх нөхцөлийг бас хангаж байгаа. Тэгэхээр аялал жуулчлалын томоохон төслүүдэд гардаг одоо алдааг энэ төсөл давтахгүй байхад анханасаа анхаарч байгаа гэдгээрээ бас засгийн газрын одоо бүрэн дэмжлэгийг авч байгаа гэж ингэж ойлгож болно. Тэгэхээр ер нь эцэст нь одоо дүгнэж хэлэхэд энэ Марс Марсаар одоо төлөөлүүлж байгаа Монголын говийг олон улсын аялал жуулчлалын зах зээлд гаргах гэж зорьж байгаа энэ төслийг бол Монгол улсын аялал жуулчлалын салбарыг бүсчилж хөгжүүлэх тэр дундаа аялал жуулчлал Монгол улсын аялал жуулчлал өөрөө олон улсын зах зээл дээр өөр өнцгөр өөр одоо имижээр тий харагдах борлуулагдах энэ боломжийг бас бүрдүүлж байгаа нэг ийм чухал төсөл гэж ингэж үзэж байгаа. Нөгөөтэйгөр бид нар урт хугацаанд аялал жуулчлалын салбараас бол эдийн засгийн үр өгөөжийг энэ төслөөр дамжуулж хүртэх боломжийг бас бүрдүүлнэ. За тэгээд төслийг бас уялдуулад энэ төсөл маань бас засгийн газрын үйл ажиллагааны наривчилсан төлөвлөгөөнд бас тусаад явж байгаа. Тэгэхээр төсөлтөө уялдуулад бид нар одоо аялал жуулчлалынхаа салбарын бодлогоодыг бас бүрэн уялдуулад зам тээврийнх нь одоо агаарын тээвэр, зам тээвэр, бусад одоо дэд бүтэц дагсан салбаруудын төлөвлөгөөг бас давхар хийгээд явхад бүрэн боломжтой болж байна гэж ингэж үзэж байна.
За тэгээд юуны өмнө танаас нэвтрүүлэлт оролцож байгаадаас их баяртай байна. За өнөөдөр бол Монгол Улсын хэмжээнд бол газар нутгийн 21 нь одоо Монгол Улсын тусгай хамгаалалтын газарт хариалагдж байна. За үүн дотроо 120 одоо нэг талбар газрыг 715 нийт албан агчтай 34 хамгааллын захиргааны одоо хамгаалтаар хариуцсан хамгаалж байгаамаа. Ер нь бол монголчууд эртээр үеэс бас газар нутгаа хамгаалж ирсэн түүхэн сайхан уламжлалтай юм ард түмэн байгаа. За энэ Марс төсөл бол одоо яхахгүй манай засгийн газраас барьж байгаа бодлого, яамнаас барьж байгаа бодлоготой бас нийцж байгаа юм төсөл байгаамаа. За ер нь тусгай хамгаалалтын газар дээр тав түрүү хөндөж байна. Энэ нь бол одоо тэр байгаль орчиндөө ээлтэй тэр тэнд амьдарч байгаа ард иргэдтэй бас тий одоо өгөөжтөө ийм тал дээр бас төрийн бодлого бол явж байгаа. 2016 оны 12 дугаар сарын 28-ны 10 дугаар тогтоол гарсан байна. Тусгай хамгаалалтын газар дээр газар ашиглах, эзэмшүүлэх, төсөл сонгон жалруулах журмын гаргаа баталсан байгаа. За энэ дээр нь цаашдаа бид нар бол Монгол Улсын тусгай хамгаалалтын газар дээр аялал жуулчлалын чиглэлээр бол том одоо төсөл сонгон жалруулах замаар одоо яа жишээлбэл би Марс төслийг бол онцлоод байна л. Энэ замаар одоо газар ашиглуулах энэ тал руугаа одоо бодлого явна гэж бид ойлгож байна. Ер нь одоо ганц Монгол улс ингээд газар нутгаа тусгай хамгаалтанд аваад байгаа асуудал биш лээ. Сая дөрөв та яаш уур амьсгалын өөрчлөлт, дэлхийн нийтийн асуудал болж байгаа үед бол бид нэр яг харахгүй энэ газар нутгаа хамгаалтанд авсан замаар тухайн экосистемийн одоо тэр бүрэн бүтэн байдлыг хангах юм одоо төрийн бодлого болох хэмжээнд ирчээд. За манай Монгол улсын хувьд бол одоо дэлхийд бол одоо аль одоо 92 онд одоо Монгол улсынхаа газар нутгийн 21% түргэнэ гэж одоо Нүби эндэр дээрээс одоо ингэж ярьсан. Ийм одоо тэр үлгэр жишээ сайхан одоо юмд байна. Одоо дэлхийн өөрөө дуурайд эхлэе. Европын одоо холбоот одоо энэ дээр нэгдээд эхлэе. Ер нь газар нутгийн тусгай хамгаалтанд авч одоо авснаар одоо энэ уур амьсгалын өөрчлөлтийг бид нар одоо даван тулж чадах юм аа гэдэг ийм одоо төрийн дэлхийн бодлого хүртэл энэ рүү ирсэн. Энэ дотроо манайх бол одоо 30% төргөнө гэж тогтвортой хөгжил 2030 за 2050 алсын хараа тодорхой заасан байгаа. За үүн дотроо бол одоо бүр газар нутгийн 30% одоо Монгол улсын тусгай хамгаалтанд авах дээр нь одоо ус бүрэлдэх хийхүүд үе цэнгүү усны эхийн одоо 55. За цаашлаа 60% одоо Монгол улсын тусгай хамгаалтанд авах ийм одоо том зорилт бодол төрийн бодлогод одоо явж байгаа. За ер нь бол тулгымцсан асуудал одоо байна. За жишээлбэл манай Монгол бол одоо уламжлал мал аж ахуй эрхэлдэг тийм ээ нүүдлийн одоо ийм ахуйтай улс. За энэ дээр малын одоо бэлчээр тийм малын дааз. За үүнтэй холбоотойгоор зэрлэг амьтны одоо нутаг тэр одоо бэлчээр талах нутагт одоо бас улаацлах асуудал бас байна. За уур амьсгалын өөрчлөлттэй холбоотойгоор энэ хөрсний одоо сөлжилтийн асуудал байна. За дээр нь одоо нэмэгдээд энэ аялал жуулчлалтай холбоотой бас нөөц даацын асуудал ч гэсэн одоо бас тусгай хамгаалалтын газар дээр өнөөдөр өсвөлж бас аял зам болчиход байна л дээ. За үүн дээр би таны ярьсан төрүүнээр бид нар одоо энэ аялал жуулчлалын даац тийм энэ эко аялал жуулчлал одоо дэлхий бол одоо тогтвортой аялал жуулчлалээс тусгай хамгаалалтын газар дээр аюулсны дэлхийн байгаль хамгаалалт холбооноос барьж байгаа одоо манай шаардлага буюу дэлхийн одоо ярьж байгаа бодлого тусгай хамгаалалтын газар дээр энэ эко аялал жуулчлал явах хэрэгтэй байна. За түрүү та хөндлөө тэнд амьдарч байгаа тэр нутгийн иргэдийг дэмжсэн тийм нутгийн иргэдийн оролцоотой за хамгаалтын менежмент ч гэсэн өнөөдөр төр одоо дангаараа хамгаалаад байх биш. Тэр Хустай нурууны National Park-ийн таас ярьж энэ төр хувийн хөгжлийн түншлэлийн өрөөндөөс хамгаалах тийм иргэд одоо нөхрөл хэлбэрээр одоо тусгай хамгаалалтын газар энэ засаглалын хэлбэрүүд рүүгээ бид нар одоо төлхөө одоо бодлого гарч явна гэсэн юм бас байр суурьтай байгаа юм. Түрүүн би сая ярьлаа бас энэ тэр засаглалын одоо олон хэлбэр байна манад. За жишээл хууль эрх зүйн орчноор хамгаалах буюу одоо манай тусгай хамгаалалтын газар тийм тодорхой газар нутгийг төрийн бодлогоор хамгаалж байгаа нэг засаглалын хэлбэр. За нөгөө засаглалын хэлбэр бол төр хувийн хвшил олон улсын байгууллага энэ хүрээнд хамгаалж байгаа тэр Хустай National Park-ийн хэмжээнд таас ярьлаа. За иргэд буюу нөхөрлөл орон нутгийн одоо байгууллагууд нийлээд одоо хамгаалахын нийлүүлээ. За жишээлбэл их нартыг би хэлье гэж бодсон. Их нартын байгалийн засаг газар бол одоо орон нутаг хамгаалаад явж байгаа юм хамгаалтын менежмент. За энэ том төсөл сонгон шалгаруулах замаар тусгаймалтай газар дээр газар ашиглах энэ эрх зүйн орчин бол Монгол одоо нээлттэй байгаа. Энэ дээр одоо үе үеийн засгийн газрын тогтоол, шийдвэрүүд, хууль эрх зүйн орчин бол одоо хангалттай гэж байна. Энэ цаашдаа бид нар бүс нутгийн хэмжээнд аялал жуулчлалыг одоо энэ том төсөл хөтөлбөрийн сонгон шалгаруулах замаар энэ аялал жуулчлалыг одоо тусгаймалтай нэвтрүүлэх нь зүйтэй юм байна. Эргээд одоо тэр иргэдэд нээлттэй байгаль орчиндөө сөрөг нөлөөгүй ийм том төсөл хөтөлбөрийг хэрэгжүүлэхээр бид нар одоо зорин ажиллаж байгаа болно.
Нэг номыг ингээ олон хүмүүс уншлаа гэхэд уншсан хүн болгонд өөр ингэсэн төсөөлөл бий болдог. Хэрвээ түүгээр ингээ кино хийгээд найруулагчийн шийдлэр ямар нэг кино бий болох юм бол тэрний талаар хүмүүсийн дунд гол дүр болон өрнөж байгаа хот тосгодын талаар нэг ижилхэн төсөөлөл бий болдог. Энэ ижилхэн төсөөлөл, энэ ижилхэн стандарт маягийн төсөөлөл олон хүмүүсийг хооронд нь нэгтгэдэг. Магадгүй өөрийнхөө төсөөлөл явж байх нь амттай байж болох ч олуулаа нэг ижилхэн төсөөлөлтэй байх, нэг ижилхэн зорилгын өдөөс харж байхын хүч гэж байдаг. Энэ хүчил агуу үйлсүүдийг, агуу бүтээн байгуулалтыг бий болгодог гол хөдөлгөч хүч байдаг болов уу гэж би итгэдэг. Манай манга багийнхны хувьд болохоор Марс бие төслийн ирээдүйг хүмүүст ярих биш, хэлэх биш, харуулах хэрэгтэй болсон. Мянга сонсохоор нэг удаа үз гэж үг байдаг. Яг түүнтэй адилхан одоо хүмүүсийн анх удаа сонсож байгаа, хоёр дахь удаага сонсож байгаа, мянга дахь удаага сонсож байгаа Марс бие төслийн талах ирээдүйг бид нар хүмүүст харуулах хэрэгтэй болсон. Ирээдүйн талаарх төсөөлөл нь нэг ижил хүмүүс, нэг ижил зорилготой хүмүүс, нэг юмд нэг янзаар итгэж байгаа хүмүүсийн хүч чадал, боломж бололцоо гэдэг хязгаарлагдчихгүй их гэж төсөөлөгддөг. Хэрвээ бид нэг ийм төсөөлтөй байж чадах юм бол урагшлахад бий болсон саадыг даван туулахад, тэмцэхэд, ирээдүгийн бүтээн байгуулахад бидэнд хэр баргийн саад, огтхон саад болохгүй гэж би бодож байна. Ямар ч барилга байгууламж, ямар ч бүтээн байгуулалт эхлээд хүний оюун санаа дотор бий болдог. Тэгээд дараа нь хүмүүс хоорондоо тэр оюун санаандаа бий болсон төсөөллөө хуваалцдаг. Тэр төсөөлөлд нь хэр их олон хүн итгэж чадна, хэр олон хүн тэрийг нэг ижил янзаар олж харж чадна. Тэр хэмжээгээр тэр бүтээн байгуулалт, тэр барилга байгууламж, тэр агуу үйлс бодитоор бий болох магадлал нь ихсдэг. Магадгүй нэгэнт бий болцсны дараа тэр завсрын үе шат болох төсөл, зураг, план тэд нар хэрэггүй болдог гэж магадгүй. Тэгтэл ямар ч зүйл бүтээн бий болохын тулд эцсийн шатнаас эхний шат хоёрын хооронд маш олон завсрын үе шат байдаг. Тэдгээрийн нэг нь Марс бие төслийн хувьд бидний манга юм болов гэж боддог. Ирээдүйн хот ямар байх вэ? Ирээдүйн технологи ямар байх вэ? Монголын говьд ямар ирээдүй бий болох вэ? Тэнд ирсэн эрдэмтэд юун дээр ажиллах вэ? Тэнд ирсэн зоригтонгууд ямар адал явдал туулах вэ? Энэ одоо хүн болгоны толгойд өөрөөр төсөөлөгдөж байгаа. Тэгвэл энийг бид нар нэгтгэж чадвал, нэг болгож чадвал нэг зорилгын төлөө бид нар бүгд зүтгэж чадна. Яг энэ л ачааг, энэ л асуудлыг бид нар шийдэх гэж бараг жил гараа ажилласан. Тэгээд өнөөдөр бид нар хийсэн бүтээсэн зүйлийг хаад гарчаа та бүхэнд хуваалцах бэлэн болсон байна. Тийм болохоор танд байгаа төсөөллүүдийг бид нэгтгэхэд, нэг болгоод хүн болгоны өөр төсөөлж байгаа тэр ирээдүг өнөөдөрт авчираад хүн болгонд бидний ирээдүй ийм шүү дээ гэж харуулахын тулд бид нар бүтэн жилийн турш ажилласан. Бүтэн жилийн турш энэ хүнд хэцүү ажлыг нугуулах гэж бид нар нэг сайн болсон гэж мэдэхгүй ч гэсэн хамаг байдгаараа хичээж ажилласан. Тэгээд бид нар энэ ажлыг хаард гарчаад одоо та бүхэнд хуваалцах бэлэн болсон байна. Тэгээд хэдүүлээ нэг ижил төсөөл, нэг ижил зорилгын төлөө хамтдаа хичээцгээе.
За сайн байцгаана уу? Намайг Бэлгүн гэдэг. Би Марс бие төслийн архитектурын багийн ахлагчаар ажиллаж байна. Манай баг 10 орчим гишүүнтэй. Бид нэр өнгөрсөн жил гарын хугацаанд Марс бие төслийн багийнхантайгаа хамтран мөн гадаадын судалгааны байгууллагатайгаа хамтран Марс бие төслийн дизайн хөгжүүлэлт, газар зохион байгуулалт, материал судлал, бусад барилга байгууламж гэх мэт концепцийг хөгжүүлэн ажиллаж байна. Манай энэ концепцийн чиглэлүүд бол үйл ажиллагаанаас хамаарат барилгын загварууд маань хагас дугуй хэлбэртэй. За тэгээд энэ газар доорх байгууламж юм уу олон төрөл байгаа. За бид нар ер нь яг барилга байгууламж гэхээсээ илүү хүн амьдрахад тохирох хүч төр орчныг бүрдүүлэх тэг жижиг хэмжээний хот маягийн юм төсөөлж одоо энэ концепцийг хийж байгаа. Тэгээ бид нар тэр жижиг хэмжээний хот дотроо барилга байгууламжаа барьж, хоол хүнсээ ургуулж, за тэгээ усаа бэлдэж, эрчим хүчний технологи хөгжүүлэх ч юм уу, бус бүх технологи хөгжүүлээд, за тэгээд дараагийн ирэх хүмүүсээ ирэх орчин нөхцөлд бүрдүүлж, урт удаан хугацаанд амьдрах тэр орчныг бүрдүүлэхийн төлөө энэ технологиг одоо боловсруулад явж байна. За өнөөдөр дэлхий дээр одоо Марс гариг дээр барилга байгууламж барих энэ өрсөлдөөн, энэ уралдаанд маш олон архитектурын компани, маш олон компаниуд ингээд хүч үзэн уралдаж ажиллаж байна. За бид нэр Монголын говьд энэ технологиг хөгжүүлсэн технологи Монголын говьд туршиж энэ уралдаанд манлайлах нь бидний одоо гол зорилго юм аа. За одоо манай төсвийн концепцийн хамгийн гол зүйл бол энэ дөм хэлбэртэй байгууламж байгаа. Энэ байгууламж маань манай Монгол гэрийн үндсэн концепцийг шингээсэн. За тэгээд уг хэлбэр бидний сонгосон уг хэлбэр маань энэ Марс гаригийн эрдэс, уур амьсгал, энэ хөрсний бүтц, энэ зэрэгт хамгийн тохиромжтой тэгээд энэ судалгаагаар батлагдсан хэлбэр байгаа. Манай Марс веб төссөн академийн үндсэн концепц бол бид нар энэ дэлхийн олон улсын байгууллагуудын бүтээж буй одоо магадгүй энэ Арабын нэгдсэн Эмират улс, Хятад улс өөр бусад улсуудын бүтээж буй концепцоос эрс жоохон ялгаатай байгаа. Юугаараа ялгаатай гэвэл одоо тэр улсууд маань ихвчлэн дом хэлбэрийг барьж байгаа бол бид нэр концептыг санаагаад далайн гүний олон жил далайн гүний амьтад бол өөрсдөө маш даралт маш их авдаг. Тэгээ тэрийг судлаад тэр судалсан амьтдуудын хэлбэр дүрс энэ бүгдээс ингээ санаа авч шинээр ингээ концепц боловсруулж байгаа. Энэ концепц маань магадгүй хүн харахад ингээ чихүүцээр хүн эвгүй санагдах боловч энэ Марсын энэ эрдэс, уур амьсгал, магадгүй тэр Марсын тэр хөрсөнд илүү тохирсон ийм хэв шинжийг агуулсан ийм хэлбэрүүд юм аа.
Okay, good morning. I'm holding in my hand this football ball made in Mongolia. It's made in handmade. Inside rubber, I was told, was imported from Brazil. Outside cover is made from Mongolian hide. And now it's being exported to Europe, to Germany. So you might ask why or what to do with environmentally friendly technological transfer. Almost 90% of the soil in capital city is polluted and contaminated by dangerous microbes and viruses. Here we have Paris Agreement comes into picture 5 years ago. Just recently we celebrated 5th anniversary of Paris Agreement. There were many debates, discussions how to reduce and mitigate climate change, but not much has been done. So this is the event or case where we have to remind ourselves of a famous quote by William Shakespeare, "To be or not to be." Here we can see how this application could work with the help of your mobile phone in your pocket. This application is accessible to anyone in Mongolia and any place in the world. For instance, livestock products, milk, cashmere, wool, hides and skins, all can be monitored of their origin, and not only can be monitored by quality, the health of these live products, and producers, the herders themselves can be monitored, and all the information is measured and scored accordingly. And here we come with this ball, which I showed to you. How this pasture rehabilitation project linked with this football ball. Now, this ball has barcode on it, and when you scan this barcode with your mobile phone application, it can give you actually the origin of this ball. It can give you this origin of this ball with all this data I showed to you, where the height of this ball originated and who were the herders who had the cattle in their possession and in which location this cattle was herding, and then the quality of the hides and skins, etc. Even more, this ball could travel all the way to Mars, I think. It could be one of the first football balls on Mars, because we can trace origins of this ball in Mongolia. And by this way, I want to tell, when humankind lands on Mars, everything is landed on Mars from external world, could be traced and must be traced in order to not pollute Mars planet as we polluted our Mother Earth. So the application developed by Mongolians and researchers could be applied on Mars to trace everything which could be landed on Mars of their origin and traceability. And thank you for your attention.
Mars on Earth International Digital Conference, Mars V.
Digital transition and beyond. You know, technology is such an amazing thing. Using technology and implementing it into everyday life, humankind is progressing at a pace that is so fast.
Absolutely. Progress is the key to moving forward. Space technologies are already developing private sectors in so many ways. For instance, remote sensing technologies and in situ utilization projects are fundamentally changing the concept of mining.
With that being said, individuals such as Gavin Gallay is advocating that mining industry should focus on space.
So let's focus our attention to the member of Rio Tinto and Chamber of American Commerce National Space Committee, Gavin Gallay.
Hi there, my name's Gavin from Rio Tinto in Queensland, Australia. And I really wish I could be there with you today, but I'm excited to speak with you now. So a little bit about me. I work for a pseudo think tank within Rio Tinto that looks at the future beyond 2030. And we look at everything from geopolitics to the latest in technologies, and we try and shape that worldview into some strategies that our company can use to be successful long into the future. So today, I'm here to speak to you a little bit about what I see in opportunities around the space industry. And to give you some context on where I'm coming from there, I hold positions at Rio Tinto on the Remote Operated Vehicles Steering Committee, and I hold positions outside of Rio Tinto as an advisor for organisations such as the Australian Remote Operations in Space and Earth, and also for the American Chamber of Commerce new National Space Committee. I'm really pleased to be speaking with you today. I've got some interesting topics in which to cover, and I think they're very relevant to what you're trying to achieve with your own programs there in Mongolia. So here we go. As part of this presentation, I'd like to speak to you about an introduction to mining in space. And this goes for the moon, asteroids, or Mars, or even further out into the solar system as it makes sense. But starting with that, the most important things from a short-term perspective are that the space industry is probably the only place in which we're fundamentally challenging the way we view mining. They are coming at mining from a completely different angle, with completely new challenges, and they need to invent brand new processes technologies and systems in which to address those challenges. My role is to find those particular solutions and see where they might benefit the mining industry that we have on Earth today. What interests me about the Artemis project is the potential for accelerating key technologies that will allow us to achieve a more specific, targeted, environmentally sustainable mining industry, an industry that has fundamentally remained unchanged for more than 100 years. And to understand why I think the space industry will be a catalyst for new mining, I'll share my baseline assumption with you now. If you take mining to its ultimate conclusion, regardless of time, cost, or location, you're extracting the purest form possible of minerals, of resources, of specific elements in the environment, and moving that into a location in which it can be easily utilized in the manufacturing of things. I like to imagine the future of mining looks something like termite mounds in a desert. Tiny machines going into the ground autonomously using advanced remote sensing to detect pure elements and bring them to the surface without disturbing the ground. No more giant pits and no huge machines. The purpose of getting highly specific is to do the least possible, or have the least possible impact on the environment, while still providing the materials that we need that are essential for human progress. So to me, the future of mining looks very small, extremely specific, and I think the real advantage of this future might be the agnostic nature in which it's applied. If we get very small, then it might not matter if the resources are in the ground or in space. It may even be in many waste disposal pits near our cities, or the way we dismantle old buildings. To thrive in space, we need to learn how to live off the land. And this is where Mongolia can play a key role in the future. The space industry calls this in situ resource utilization. The plan is to send autonomous machines ahead of people to find and extract resources and then build the structures required for human habitation. So we no longer need to bring everything from Earth to survive. The first iterations of this will likely be water on the moon to be used for propulsion and drinking. But in the future, entire structures could be 3D printed using the resources that are detected, mined, and smelted into filament from a single or collection of small machines. The space industry might be the only place on Earth that has both the push and pull for completely different mining technologies. That aligns with a mining future relying on specificity and our environmental ambitions here on Earth. Greater still is the disruption potential as these technologies are developed, because whoever creates the agnostic system for mining off-world creates a system that would work anywhere in the solar system. And the risk is that new mining processes catch my industry off guard and become the Uber to our taxi industry. And so this is something that's very important for me to keep across to maintain the health of our business. In many ways, the mining industry is the perfect partner for the exploration of resources elsewhere in the solar system. With deep levels of ore body knowledge gained from hundreds of years of experience, the mining industry possesses a business culture for risk tolerance that is comfortable investing billions in capital on opportunities that may not recover investment for decades to come. However, to invest that capital and accept the inherent risks, the mining industry applies very stringent demands on the level of surety for investment. It takes many years for mining companies to identify appropriate resources, and more years still to quantify the opportunity to a level in which we can invest. As of today, the space industry can't provide the detailed information a mining company would need to invest in space resource extraction. And mining companies are very comfortable with the low competition that we have here on Earth right now. The burning platform required to have large mining companies such as Rio Tinto looking at more extreme opportunities to ensure our survival doesn't yet exist. So while I'm excited about the opportunities, I'm going to outline the barriers to entry for the foreseeable future and some opportunities my industry can start working on today to ensure it's ready to explore ISRU opportunities in the future. Some of the barriers of entry, as I see them over the next 10 years, are the detailed information mining companies need to invest in space resource extraction is not yet available. We rely heavily on incredibly advanced remote sensing technologies, satellite-based target acquisition technologies, and then to be able to go and check on the ground physically to confirm what those targets indicate might be there. The second piece is really important to us that doesn't yet exist, is the customer a mining company would be supplying is not well understood. These are uncommon partners our industry has little or no experience working with, and the dollars required and the volume of resources required and the type of resources required has not yet fully been articulated. The value of the resources to a customer is also arbitrary and untested at this moment, and that's going to be a critical component that will determine when and where the mining industry can invest in situ resource utilisation projects. There is a couple of early indicators of cost and volume, but until the space industry itself accurately defines what they're going to need and where they're going to need it, it's going to be difficult for us in the mining industry to understand how we could supply those needs. The last consideration is that the space industry from a mining perspective doesn't make a lot of sense to our current business model. Today's mining companies are volume businesses, and the space industry doesn't yet need the volume of resources that would attract a mining company with the necessary capital to invest. If we take the assumption that we have 100 people living on the moon today, it's not likely that they would need any more than 1 million tons of resources per year, regardless of what those resources would be. And the challenge for us as an industry in getting our minds around what we could do and how we could participate is that our smallest mines produce tens of millions of tons of resources. The value in off-world mining opportunities from a demand perspective is less than the value of a few large mining trucks, but requires the equivalent capital investment of building 2 or 3 new mines. The cost-benefit ratio is decades or a major technology step away from being a reality. However, there's some really exciting opportunities in which we can explore together with space industry partners. We can also partner on the research and development of new agnostic methods of ISRU in remote sensing, extraction, processing, beneficiation and refining to turn exploitable materials into refined resources for 3D printing or engineered materials. The space industry has expertise in high efficiency, low energy structures in hostile environments. A partnership between the mining and space and construction industries to provide a step change in the physical assets used in the exploitation of resources would help solve many of our scope 1, 2 and 3 emission concerns so we can be better partners with the environment, the communities in which we work. The value of data is increasingly important as a competitive advantage in the mining industry. A partnership that leverages the space industry's expertise in high-speed, low-latency communication, remote sensing, and satellite constellations in exchange for expertise in exploration and mining industry could be a critical partnership opportunity for both parties. Co-development of small machines that combine exploration with extraction and refining with a focus on high specificity could add significant advantages to both on and off-world ISRU. The majority of what mining companies do is move waste material. Even after processing and refining, a product like iron ore is only 60%, which means every ship is transporting 40% of its volume as waste. The ultimate goal needs to be to extract exactly what is needed and nothing more. And in this context, Mongolia is incredibly well placed in which to be a test bed for new technologies that are both relevant to the mining industry of today and the space industry of tomorrow. And so I'm very proud to partner with the Mars 5 team in order to explore those opportunities together. And so in conclusion, I'd say the pace of innovation is accelerating, and in situ resource utilisation will be a reality far sooner than most people realise. And the question for me is, will we build those uncommon partnerships with the space industry, or will the space industry create an agnostic mining system that will swallow up the old guard, such as Rio Tinto? So it's fantastic to have the opportunity to speak with you today, and I would love to go into more detail about the opportunities that I see where the space industry and the common resource industries can effectively partner for mutual benefit. I hope you enjoyed that brief sort of outline of my views of some of the opportunities. Have a great event. Hello from Australia, and I will talk to you again soon.
Definitely enjoyable. And you know, a lot of our private sectors can also in the future potentially shift towards space.
Space industry is a not new topic in Mongolia, and we have abundant history in the space industry.
Definitely. Mongolia is deeply rooted in the histories of aerospace research. We have an astronaut who's been to space, and with that, from 1960s and on, Mongolia has participated in international legislation of space law itself.
Not only Mongolia, since 2000 many countries has been using information technology as a trigger to develop society. Therefore, we are going to invite Ms. Bolaritan Batsingal, Chairwoman of Communication and Information Technology Authority of Mongolia.
Mars on Earth International Digital Conference, Mars V.
Hello everyone, so I will be talking about space policies and digital transformation of Mongolia. So during my presentation, I will walk you through several things. The first one is Mongolia's space activities. Second one is digital transformation in Mongolia. And in the end of my presentation, I will be walking you to the further activities that the government of Mongolia is planning in the next few years. So Mongolia's space intervention really started in 1965, where Mongolia joined the program called Interkosmos. Interkosmos was a Soviet space development program which brought all the space-related programs and experts and professionals together in the 1965. So in the 1970s, we started receiving satellite data from the station orbit. And 1981 was rather historical year for Mongolia because Mr. Gurarcha, the first astronaut of Mongolia and second astronaut of Asia to travel to the space. So we still worship very much this year. Next, in the 1990s, satellite activities became our main priorities in the communication. So we really started looking into it, starting to develop policies. 1998, VSAT system was introduced. 2006, APSCO's training, MASTA and DOXTA program started and Mongolia joined this program. So MASTA means Master's Program and DOXTA means Doctor's Program. And we started to send our experts and young people to educated in this field. 2012, the government of Mongolia approved the National Satellite Project. 2013, national concept competition started to get organized every year. 2018, communication and information technology, which I'm representing today, we signed MOU with Centre National Youths of French Republic. And last year, 2019, we signed an agreement between the government of Mongolia and government of Republic India on space development. So here we are. Also, I would like to show you some of the international cooperations that we have been doing with various international organizations. The government of Mongolia is planning several activities regarding space development. The first one is to pass national space legislation in Mongolia. As I mentioned, we joined many international agreements. Second one is strengthening international cooperation and human resource capacity. So as I emphasized before, Mongolia has had very good cooperations with other international organizations. So in the next few years, what we will be focusing on is educating our young people in the space field and cooperating regarding human resource. The third one is support public-private partnership in this field, of course. So also we would like to ask for other organizations to join in for developing the space field, space development. So private organizations and NGOs will be the heart of space activities in Mongolia. Today we have about 200 space-related entities, and I have to say that MarsV is one of the biggest projects that we have had so far. The innovation and entrepreneurship initiative in the space field, the government will be supporting these initiatives, and B2B model in the space activities. Also, regarding citizens, citizens will become digital citizens and learn more about space exploration. So I think this is very, very exciting thing for our citizens and especially young people. Thank you so much for your attention.
Mongolia and space activities are intertwined. So, in this sense, we have to keep on this effort.
The world is aiming towards space for the sake of sustainability and the improvement of all humankind.
And with that, we have founder and CEO of Helium 3 Power and the member of the Norway Space Agency, Jannicke Mikkelsen.
Hello everyone, hello Mars A and hello Mars V. It is a pleasure to be invited to speak at your groundbreaking Mars on Earth virtual conference, an event of great international importance. Mongolians have always been at the forefront of space exploration. Back in 1967, 2 years before Apollo 11 launched and Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin were the first humans to walk on the moon, Mongolia signed the Outer Space Treaty. The most important paragraph of the Outer Space Treaty defines that all nations shall carry out activities in the exploration and use of outer space, in the interest of maintaining international peace and promoting international cooperation and understanding. Mongolians are now in a unique position to lead the way for nations to achieve international cooperation in united space exploration. Project Mars A and Mars V will bring the world together and unite us towards one goal: to achieve human spaceflight to a neighboring planet, Mars. In order to achieve our united goal, every nation must look at their traditional industry sector and understand how their nation's expertise can be transferred directly to the advancement of deep space operations. The discovery of planetary resources to benefit life on Earth will be of the utmost importance to the advancement of the human race. Natural extraterrestrial resources will be paramount to humanity's technological advancement to allow all humans on Earth the basic right to access electricity. Only once we have given every human on Earth access to clean and efficient energy can we advance our global civilization. The elements that we need to achieve this clean energy on Earth will come from our cosmic universe. Knowledge and expertise of how to work in extreme hazardous environments will be of great value in our quest to mine natural resources on other planets to better life back here on Earth. Mongolia just happens to be one of the nations that are mining experts Each individual person, woman and man, who previously thought they were far removed from the space program, is now the most sought after people in the advancement of the emerging deep space industry. Endurance will also be the most sought after strength in her quest to reach Mars. Establishing a base on Mars will not be an easy feat. If the moon was a giant leap for mankind, Mars will be the gigantic leap for mankind. You must be a determined people who understand the reward of showing extreme endurance. The people of the world could learn a thing or two from the Mongolian people. We are looking at achieving humanity's next giant leap to Mars within the next decade. We must come together in peaceful cooperation for the good of our planet and for the future of mankind. Through the Outer Space Treaty, we have pledged an oath to always work together as brother and sister. Even work peacefully together through political differences, international tension, and war. We have pledged to unite through science and advance humans to become a multiplanetary species, no matter what our differences should be. We are no longer individual nations. We all have a responsibility to participate our nation's expertise to accelerate the International Space Program together. Here is where Mars V and Mars A is of extreme importance to our global collaboration and global economy. The Gobi Desert of Mongolia will become a place of international peaceful cooperation amongst nations, an area of the world where we can work together and learn from each other to achieve future operational spaceflight to Mars and back to Earth. We will share knowledge and we will be inspired by each other. We will also advance trade amongst space nations. This is why I started my Norwegian company, Helium 3 Power, to accelerate international efforts to bring back from the moon the valuable natural resource helium-3, a resource which does not exist on Earth. The helium-3 will be an important step in our technological advancement towards achieving clean fusion energy on Earth. We need to provide clean energy to the world with absolute zero carbon emission and zero radioactive waste. Like Mongolia, Norway is not a traditional space nation. However, both our landscapes can be equally as hazardous to endure by our people. And through generations, we have managed to endure and innovate how we use our natural resources. Norway just happens to have a natural resource of flake graphite that can innovate space materials by making them stronger and lighter through non-polluting manufacturing methods. Norway's in-depth knowledge in mining for this natural resource will transform the future of space exploration to the moon and beyond. Like Norway, Mongolia also has tremendous access to natural resources, and I urge you to look at your traditional mining sector to transfer your earthbound industry to explore planetary mining and hazardous environment logistics, which Mongolia, of course, are experts in. In the future, I predict we will start to use cosmic extraterrestrial resources like our moon, Mars, and asteroids to stop depleting our planet of valuable resources. We need these resources to advance materials for space exploration, and we need these materials to improve life on Earth. People have always dreamed of what it would be like to live on Mars. Now we have the technology and we have the expertise to go. Let's bring our nations together around the globe and unite ourselves and establish a human settlement on Mars. Thank you so much.
Well, as Jannica just mentioned again and again, cooperation in space activity has to be key. And revolution, industrial revolution, especially the fourth age of industrial revolution, is here and happening right now, which is opening gateways to the future.
There are also concept of digital transformation caused by fourth industrial revolution. Therefore, we are going to invite Mr. Jargasahan Dor, CEO of Young Researchers Supporting Foundation in Mongolia.
So, what is revolution? Well, there is no person, no family, no organization
who are left without being affected by the fourth industrial revolution and digital transformation. So the revolution is a change. And surprisingly, we learned that there are no commonly shared definition for both of them. What is revolution and what is change? And as our foundation provides support toward young researchers in a better understanding and using systemized cognitive skills through training and guided research, we have managed to develop our own version of definitions of the above such concepts like revolution and the change. Let's try to deal with these concepts of the revolution. Changing belief and paradigms is excessively hard and time-consuming process, and that's why we don't face a revolution every day. And mistakenly, many of us tend to think and to equal the concept of revolution to the concept of kind of rebellion or violence. But when we have a deeper look into the nature of the concept of revolution, this look will tell us what is the root causes of those violent actions, changes of the old paradigms that used to serve as the foundation for sustaining stability. And the severe environment to force humans to make inventions that would enable them to survive, and knowledge will remain to be the main and the only tool to address countless challenges faced by humankind. Knowledge is the main driving force for understanding the root causes of many problems and inventing solutions. And through building knowledge, which is known as the cognitive process, is extremely complex process. And we know that there are two key ingredients for thinking. The first, data, and the second is thinking style. Of course, many suggest that industrial revolutions are different from political revolutions. But again, let's have a deeper look and we will see the same thing, that is change in our mindset. There are three main changes that are driving the fourth industrial revolution. The first, humankind enjoyed unprecedented capacity of data generation. And 2014 study suggests that we humans generate the huge volume of data in 2 days in 2014, which is equal to all combined data that has been generated by humankind during 11,000 to 2000. I may even today suggest that it would take only 2 hours into 2020. At the same time, data has become the most valuable commodity, leaving behind the oil and other commodities. And the second, the computing power. Today we witness not only exponentially increased computing power, but also inclusive and affordable computing powers. And thirdly, the connectedness. Thanks to tremendously increased connectedness, now we are able to share knowledge at unprecedented magnitude and speed. So the ultimate benefits that are provided by the fourth industrial revolution is the increased capability of generating knowledge. Technology is knowledge, and technology is not something that separate from knowledge. Technology is knowledge, and that is invented by thinking, and it helps in easing and making more comfortable certain parts of our life. Its entry into our daily life is limitless, and we are becoming so dependent on this knowledge that is named technology. The fourth industrial revolution gave birth to countless new disruptive
technologies, and we should expect to enjoy even more new technologies that would be more efficient and more affordable and more inclusive and more cheaper. So there are many definitions of the concept of digital transformations, and there are many studies suggesting that the most attempts to realize the digital transformation fail. And it's very important that we understand what is digital transformation and what is the necessity of that is causing digital transformation. And digital transformation is a logical consequence that is caused by the fourth industrial revolution. And also digital transformation is also an opportunity. To me, digital transformation is not the ultimate goal. It is a process of transformation enabling to build knowledge in timely and accurate manner. Many of us mistakenly tend to think that knowledge building is very complex and a costly process. In reality, knowledge doesn't have to be rocket science. It can be in the form of inventing very simple solutions that would allow you to save few seconds or few cents in performance of simple moves or actions. Those few seconds and cents can make huge difference when it accumulates as a result of repetitive moves and actions. Unfortunately, many companies and organizations simply ignore those seemingly modest savings that could eventually create huge value for all stakeholders. And let's have a look at the Sears. Once that used to be the biggest retail chain in US, and to compare with the Amazon. And you can see the clear difference between companies that has employed the digital transformation and that failed to employ digital transformation. Digital transformation is not option, it's necessity. As the customers' behavior and their expectations are changing so fast, the companies must change it no less than the customer changes their speed. And disruptive technologies dealing with the data generating, processing, and transmitting are helpful in building knowledge. But that's not enough for building good quality knowledge. The missing part is our thinking style. The lack of aligned mental model between stakeholders is very failing part. A mental model is a final product of thinking, and the content and the form of such model vary greatly. It's natural process, but it can be also lead to disastrous consequences in many cases. And systemized thinking is the most promising alternative that can help us in improving our thinking skills and creating commonly shared goal. If we fail to change our thinking style, which is the ultimate root causes of many problems that we face today, and disruptive technologies won't help us. In many cases, those technologies will cause chain reaction that will cause more complicated problems. Systemized thinking can't be achieved instantly, and possessing such thinking skills really require dedication of time and other resources. Thinking can be systemized. The biggest obstacle preventing us from making our thinking more disciplined and more systemized are our persistent paradigms and the lack of skills of applying any interdisciplinary approach to make our thinking more disciplined. A person needs to acquire at least the basic knowledge about the system engineering and logics and psychology and their interrelation in order to make thinking more disciplined. We have developed and tested so-called systemized cognitive technology, and data generated by testing suggests it's very encouraging. And last year, we conducted a brief research aimed at learning about the differences between prevailing mindset of Mongols as a nomads and the systemized thinking. And the finding surprised us. As we see here, there is a tremendous potential of making our thinking not only disciplined and systemized, but also creative ones. And the fourth industrial revolution brought so many challenges as well. And one of the biggest challenges, our mindset dominated by legacy paradigms. And it's clear to me that our thinking style, which has brought so many wonderful innovations and progress to us, needs to be changed in order to stay able to digest and handle properly huge data and generate the much needed knowledge. Thank you.
Mars on Earth International Digital Conference, MarsV. Welcome back, everyone. Thank you for being with us. This is the last panel discussion of our conference. We just got very interesting speeches about space mining, the fourth industrial revolution, digital transformation, and Mongolia's activity and policy in the information technology sector. Now, we invite some distinguished guests to discuss how we can make remarkable contribution to the space industry and what solutions we can offer. Please welcome His Excellency, Ambassador Extraordinary and Plenipotentiary of India to Mongolia, Mr. Mohinder Pratap Singh, and His Excellency, Ambassador Extraordinary and Plenipotentiary of United States of America to Mongolia, Mr. Michael Klacheski, and Mr. Batnarant Lotkunshar, the Vice Minister of Mining and Heavy Industry, and Mr. Ganzorik Ulzibayr, economist and the Chairman of Board of Directors at Mandl Insurance.
75% of foreign direct investment in Mongolia was addressed to the mining sector in the last year. But now here we are talking about supporting new sector, namely space technology and innovation. So how can you see the benefit of supporting space-related technology and innovation?
On top of its very interesting geography, Mongolia has a very high temperature differentiation between the night and the day, and also it's one of the coldest places on the earth and one of the most dry places on the earth. So I think to mimic alien planet environment, to test the equipment and to test the human suitability is, I think, Mongolia suits very well. Also, Mongolia, of course, is an oasis of democracy, as many prominent global politicians call it. So we have a very supporting legal and economical infrastructure to develop a space research, and even that can further be developed into space tourism. You know, not everyone can or even want to go to space, but everyone wants to go to a place on the Earth that mimics a space itself, right? So I think it could be the location, and we have this mindset, I think, which is very, very outstanding.
You highlighted that advantages and capacities of Mongolia, but there are many people may wonder that how a country of only 3.5 million people can carry out the giant project like MarsV. So how will you answer this question? Because you launched a very successful book, Psychology of Management. So based on your managemental psychology, how would you answer that question?
Well, I think yesterday's giant project is today's common project, you know. So I think giant is really in our psychology, it's our perception. It's not really a giant project because, you know, we can support it as long as we have the right environment from geographic perspective and from legal and human capacity perspective. in order to support such a project. So I think it's a very, very suitable but often overlooked place that is Mongolia.
In our Mars 3 project, we also talk a lot about survival skill and adaptive skill of Mongolians. So what is a special expertise for nomadic people, and what is their advantage and specialty?
I believe it's very interesting mix, and your question addresses that challenge spot on. Because Mongolia is a perfect place. Why? To discover and to colonize, to make a home, an alien planet, you have those specific behaviors and specific adaptable capacities, psychologically prepared as an astronaut, as a colonist. So in the world, there's no culture that can mimic that the best, and that is the nomadic culture. We Mongolians, as nomadics, we always adapt to some of the harshest climates on the earth, and we truly adapt to what nature demands us to be. And that really comes from this mindset of being flexible and be prepared to any challenge and become a strategist. But unfortunately, in our today's typical Western style education system, we don't teach complexity. But in this education system, everything is linear. Everything's so simple, like A plus B equals C. But life is not like that. Life is complex. And nature is not like that. Nature is complex. And if we talk about alien planet, it's even to the next degree of complexity we're talking about. So if you put a nomadic herder from Mongolia and put him in a rocket and send him to Mars, I believe he will be the best suited, astronaut to colonize Mars, in fact, because he's got these right mindsets. Because to adapt, to be flexible, to become a strategist is what he is used to from very young ages. So I think Mongolian Gobi Desert, and combined with witnessing the nomadic lifestyle, can be an excellent psychological training ground for those future astronauts who are opting to fly the next rocket to the Mars.
Ladies and gentlemen, Happy New Year again. I'm excited to start the last panel discussion of our conference. And it is a great honor to have His Excellency, Ambassador Extraordinary and Plenipotentiary of India to Mongolia, Mr. MP Singh.
Thank you.
So first question from you is one of our key speakers of this conference, Ms. Yannick from Norway. She mentioned that both Norway and Mongolia are not traditional space nations, but we have a big ambition in the space industry. So therefore, why and how those countries which are not familiar with the space industry contribute to the space exploration, in your opinion?
Your question has two elements. The smaller countries that don't have the space capabilities, and then why and how. I'll just give you why. If you look at the history of the world industrial production, there have been 4 revolutions. The first revolution was water and steam, which mechanized the production. And second came the electric, which made mass scale production possible. And the third revolution, which is electronics and IT, which digitized the production levels. And the fourth revolution, which is building on the third revolution, is digitizing the production of the world. Now, in a country which is smaller like Mongolia, but has inherent strength, you have very strong mining and mineral resources. You have rare earth elements. You have a vast nation with a scarce population. So we need to make use of this, because sooner the whole of production systems will be moving digitally. It has gone from automated to digital, and very soon it will move, the controls at least, will move from the terrestrial into the extraterrestrial space. So for a country like smaller country like Mongolia, they would need to, that was the why. And second is that they need to collaborate. They need to have exchange, information exchange, sharing mechanism. They could sign MOUs, they could have training for many of the young people here, and have an institutional linkage and with the nations that have stronger capabilities. And as you know, India is now one of the top 4 nations in space area. We started this several years ago, but we very much feel that we could support upcoming nations. With Mongolia, we have a strategic partnership. Last year in September, we signed an agreement on cooperation in space, during which many of your team members also accompanied the President Batulga. So I'm sure that within the framework of that, we could develop the how part of developing the Mongolian space program.
So India is one of the leading countries in space technology. So therefore my question is, in your opinion, what was the main trigger? What was the main catalyst that led to India's leap in technological advancement? Yeah, but it's true.
In 1962, when the nation was just a nascent nation, the program was started. And by the time ISRO, that is Indian Space Research Organization, became an independent arm, that was in 1969, and going forward, within 6 years of its formation, it was able to launch first satellite in 1975, which is Aryabhata, named after the famous Indian astronomist. Of course, much of our space development program was indigenous, but there was a great support from the then Soviet Union. And I was answering to your first question as to how do we move forward. So the vision of the father of Indian space industry, Dr. Vikram Sarabhai, who was the father of the space research, he put forth a plan which was neither looking at glorification of a space, and I would say unlike other countries, the idea was not the prestige but the problem solving. Idea was how to use the application of technology for solving the real life problem. And the whole idea was to use the resources but not go into the race. The whole idea was to make technology development oriented rather than a race with any other nation. And it started off in a modest level. And over a period of time, that just last month, which is November 6th, India launched another satellite, and with it launched a number of smaller satellites for various nations. To allow you a perspective as to how Indian space industry grew, from 1975 till about 2019, India has put into space more than 350 satellites already. And India also shares 3 world records, incidentally, which may not be known to many. The number 1 was, of course, the moon mission where the water was discovered. And second one, when India landed, Indian spacecraft landed on Red Planet Mars in the very first attempt, the first nation in Asia and the 4th nation in the world to do so. And the third world record was India launched a few years back 104 satellites in one go in the space. Most of it were foreign satellites, beating the record of Russia, which launched 37. So this was one perspective as to how a nation made use of space for various requirements. And as I mentioned to you, and you had asked me a question, I think there's a lot which we can do with Mongolia. Mongolia has a large geographical area, smaller population. So our desire to move space moved by not, as I said, glory, but by the needs. So need to exploit the natural resources, need to expand education, need to revolutionize the communication, telecast, telemedicine, disaster management, weather mapping. And all of this has helped India consolidate its strengths and made it able to utilize its natural resources much better way. And I'm pretty sure that we as in India, in the Indian Space Research Organization, last year some of you had visited them, have seen the capabilities firsthand. Your president expressed appreciation as to the achievements of ISRO. We would be very happy to go forward. So to say what triggered, the trigger was the need to have a development as a focus using space area. And going forward, the whole idea is to consolidate our synergies. In next about 5 years, we have planned about 8 more missions, which includes 1 manned mission to the moon and also to the Mars.
Government support is very also important in the sector,
Very
right?
crucial, very crucial. What made Indian space a success story was the governmental backing. Back then, from 1962, coming now, there have been a consistent government support. And once the government support is there and there is a dedicated number of people who collaborated, as I told you, learnt a lot and exchanged a lot of information with the then Soviet Union. And now we have our own program where we are collaborating with over 60 nations in the world, helping them develop and consolidate their synergies. And just to give you an example, I'm not sure whether many of your people would have noticed, NASA has an annual budget of about 22.6 billion. Chinese Space Agency has a budget of about 11 billion a year. European Space Agency has a budget of about 7.5, 7.4 billion a year. And now contrast this with ISRO, which operates on a budget of just 1.2 billion and making all of these missions possible, and also supporting the other nations with whom we have entered into the partnership. So yes, governmental support is very crucial, but more than that, there is an imperative need to draw up a plan. And as I mentioned in my remarks, that in 6 years, if India could put its first satellite in space, certainly in today's age and time where the information is so much available and resources are easily exploitable, I'm pretty sure that we could synergize our efforts and try and support Mongolia within the framework of the space agreement that was signed last year, and help them make further progress in the mission.
So you say that exact government support plan, exact plan is important. Yeah, I think so. If everyone, if the maybe whole nation understand what is their nation's vision and mission, the youths probably may be more productive and they will believe in their future more. And that was another trigger, maybe.
Mongolia is the 18th largest nation on this earth, with a population of just 3.3 million people. There is vast number of natural resources, primarily mining, rare earth and others. And a country as big as this, how do you map your own resources? Mining is the mainstay of Mongolian economy, but yet the whole of mapping, not only of those currently, the 3 Cs, copper, coal and Kashmir are the mainstay. But I would say going forward, if you look at the rare earth elements, which is the mainstay of today's electronics production and in the digital area, this could be of a great help. It could help herders, let's say, their mobility between one region to another, or predicting ZUD or disaster management. Many of those areas can be easily used through space technologies, and it is not necessary that you have to have your own satellite. You could also have a leased satellite, and you can also launch a small satellite. As I said, ISRO has a commercial arm which is called Antrix, and they have been launching foreign satellites, and I told you so many, and they hold the world record. And pretty much sure, we are in discussions with Mongolia already. I have no problem in sharing as to whether we could explore the possibility of launching the communication satellite for Mongolia. Mongolia is first and the only satellite Mazalai. I think decommissioned last year, if I remember correctly. So certainly I think going forward, if there is a support from the government side and the youth, which is a very integral element, and some passionate people I have seen in this room and beyond, they could evolve a certain plan. And you mentioned about the Mars on Earth project, which I remember. And this could be a tourism area, a potential area. You see, the only other country that I know is looking at this is UAE, and with such a wonderful terrain that Mongolia has in Gobi Desert, this could be one area which could be developed. So I'm not saying it's only one aspect of the economy that will get supported. It will be tourism, it will be weather prediction, it could be communication, and it's such a vast country. Education, telemedicine, all of these can be used better using the space technology.
Thank you for coming in here.
No, it is such a pleasure.
And
I thank you, on the contrary, for inviting me to such a prestigious conference. We were looking in the physical format, but yes, as they say, digital is the new word, and I appreciate. And as far as I can say that we again reiterate our commitment to our strategic partner Mongolia to help them develop their space program, and through Mars we will be happy to support this with ISRO or Antrix. Thank you.
Thank you. Wish you a very bright and unique, productive year.
Thank you.
Namaste. So my next question is for Mr. Batnerendal. One of our key speakers, Ms. Jannicke from Norway, mentioned in her speech that every nation must look at their traditional industry sector and understand how their national expertise can be transferred directly to the advancement of space-related operations. So in Mongolian case, Mongolia's economy is heavily tied to the mining industry. So how can we redirect revenues raised by mining sector into the innovation and technology, thereby diversifying Mongolia's portfolio?
If you look at the Mongolia's economy, it's actually very simple. And 90% of our revenue generated from just a few key mining products: copper, gold, coal, iron ore. And our challenge is how can we direct those revenue generated from the mining sector into other key industries where we have competitive advantage or where we have future potential. And at the government level, we're looking at to establish a sovereign development fund where basically we can collect extra revenues generated from our mining sector and channel that fund generated from the mining sector into other sectors, like where we believe that we have competitive advantage, or where science and technology can actually make a difference. And so, I mean, if you look at the other countries, there are more than 120 so-called sovereign wealth funds, where a lot of resource-rich countries actually are able to collect their mining revenue, channel into non-mining, and be able to grow their non-mining sectors. And there is a kind of, I guess, increasing tendency towards specifically building sovereign development fund, not wealth fund, and that's applicable especially for developing countries where big investment are necessary to develop infrastructure or start or new industries where technological advancement and innovation can be used.
So my next question from Mr. Batnerendal is, what is Mongolia's long-term industrial capacity and strategic plan?
So the government has put together Mongolia's long-term national strategic plan, so-called Vision 2050. So where basically we defined and made it official, okay, what industries are preferred or where we have most potential, and like apart mining, right? So that includes, for example, agriculture, tourism, and one of them is actually, I think, most interesting to me is we called it creative industry, where startups and non-traditional small medium enterprises can actually develop and become the next billion-dollar industry. And I think that's where basically we need to sort of think outside the box and outside the traditional economic model. And then I think that's where we sort of have to challenge, or even if you look at what the world has accomplished in the last 30 years using technological advancement and innovation, is really sort of pushing the traditional model where every country or a country has to focus on industries where they have the biggest competitive advantage. Let's say, like look at Mongolia, for example, right? So we have a big land, a lot of animals, livestock. So that means we have to focus on agriculture, or we have a lot of natural resources. So that means we have to focus on mining. But what about the industries where technology or innovation can enable to actually build the next billion-dollar industry? And then I think that's what we see in many countries. It's almost like we see a lot of mushrooms after the rain. There are a lot of billion-dollar worth or billion-dollar valued unicorns around the world in so many different industries. So they were able to do so using technology and innovation, and really bringing existing or new products and services for hundreds of millions of people or billions of people who are not considered be able to afford otherwise, so-called non-consumers. And then I think that's where, so there's an interesting concept, so-called market creating innovation. And that's where I would like to focus. I think when we look at innovation, when we talk about innovation and technological advancement, right, we can actually dive deeper into, okay, what really innovation is, why innovation actually matters for countries like Mongolia, for example. And in my opinion, the type of innovation that matters the most for us is market creating innovation. What that means is that it's the type of innovation that can make products and services that were so expensive for majority of the population only accessible for few people. And how can you bring those products and services accessible to the rest of the country, rest of the population who cannot access and afford otherwise? And that's market creating innovation. That's actually probably the most important innovation that can actually change probably the entire industry or the face of many developing countries. And then I think we can actually apply that concept when it comes to, for example, the Project Mars V. And then probably as a young person, I believe that next billion-dollar idea is probably in the minds of young people in Mongolia. We might not be able to see it, and that's why we can't say that's the industry we should focus on, that's the next billion-dollar industry where we have the biggest competitive advantage. But that traditional model has been challenged. And what that means is that we need really to think outside the box and invest or support those young people who might be carrying the billion-dollar idea in their head. And how can we enable those young people to actually solve the problems that we face in Mongolia, for example? What about air pollution, right? What about the challenges? What about bringing that extra income into like different industries? How can we grow the industries that we might not be even aware? And I think that's the challenge, but at the same time, I think that's where the wealth, or that's where the opportunity lies.
As you just mentioned about market creating innovation, and it seems like many of us just focus on the concept of innovation, but not really talk about the types of innovation.
Yeah.
And I never heard of the market creating innovation, so thank you for giving a new knowledge to all of us. So my last question will be same for all of the panelists. So the question is, how can we transform Mongolia's mining-based development model into technology-based growth policy? And what will be the benefit or importance of developing a technology-based economy?
I think today Mongolia is heavily, as you said, dependent on mining resources. And that's where quarter of our state budget comes from. That's where 90% of the export come from. And how can we bring that wealth generated from one specific industry into industries where we have most potential? And to me, policy-wise, the key is really to focus on. I think one of the keys is to establish that sovereign development fund, and I see that as a sort of mechanism to bring, the channel the mining-generated income into other industries. What about science and technology? What about startups and that are trying to solve the problems or the challenges as a country we face. And for example, 2/3 of our residents in our capital city live in Gir district, right? There are many challenges that we need to solve. And I think the solutions are in the mind of young people. And that sovereign development fund that we aiming to build actually can enable that mechanism flowing, the revenue generated from mining into other industries where we can use that market creating innovation and technological advancement to enable products and services that are not accessible to majority of the population.
Welcome back, everyone. I'm pleased to welcome very honorary guest today. So please welcome His Excellency Ambassador Extraordinary and Plenipotentiary of America, or US, to Mongolia, Mr. Michael Klechinsky.
Greetings.
So thank you for receiving our invitation.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
Okay, so I have several questions.
Please, sure.
So first question is, now US, NASA and SpaceX are attempting to make a crewed mission to Mars around 2030s, only maybe within 10 years later. So how do you see this mission? What is your opinion about that?
Oh, first of all, I find it incredibly exciting. And one of the things that is happening right now, which maybe you might say adds to the excitement, is that the preparations are moving along really well. So for instance, now we have a mission to the moon. Of course, it's focused on the moon, but in so doing, it also kind of lays the groundwork, prepares for some of the aspects of being on Mars. So that's one way of preparing. And meanwhile, soon, in fact, we're going to have a rover on Mars. It's on its way, as they say. In fact, I think it's really amazing that NASA has a website, because I looked it up, that tells you exactly how many days, hours, and even minutes until landing. So it's been very exciting from the point of view, even of the way NASA presents it to the public. And of course, that means to the international public. But it's exciting because, of course, because of where it will be going, but it's also, I think, very exciting because of the international cooperation that's involved. And that's really one of the main themes, I think, of space travel, is that the more you can do it with international cooperation to achieve kind of responsible uses of space exploration, the better it is.
In your opinion, what is why those countries which are not familiar with space industry also contribute to this space exploration? What is the value of it?
Every country has something to offer, and both in terms of what they learn and in terms of what they can contribute in terms of their knowledge, perhaps a different aspect of exploration that they can focus on that other countries perhaps haven't focused on for one reason or another. So the opportunities are there really for everybody, and it's pretty obvious because so many countries have cooperated in this effort in one way or another. It's a grand, incredibly expansive thing, and it's really nice to see the cooperation advancing as briskly as it has been.
As you said, every country has something to offer, and it's really important because space industry is quite broad, and there are a lot of small sectors, maybe space food and suit, like this.
Exactly.
So I want to ask now about Mars V. So Mars V project is also very special. We also offer something special for analog mission. So you visited at Mars V office earlier, and
I
so
did.
you know the basics about the project. So in your opinion, what's your opinion about the potential of the Mars V project?
I mean, I think it's a really interesting possibility. You know, it was very, very interesting to visit the offices. One of the many things that really impressed me about it was the enthusiasm of everybody who was there and the knowledge base of everyone who was there. Some of them have studied abroad, some of them have focused their studies in Mongolia, but they all seem not only highly committed, but highly excited and also very knowledgeable about various aspects of this mission. So I think the possibilities are very interesting. There has to be different ways, I think, of preparing for humans to be on Mars. And this is one way to do it that offers some interesting possibilities.
US also building very big analog mission site and simulation base, right?
Right, yeah. Sure. I mean, there's a lot of things the U.S. is doing with regard to Mars preparations. As I said, this rover that will be landing, it's less than 60 days away, and I could give you the exact number, but you know, that mission, among other things, has equipment on it that will study the atmosphere of Mars, and obviously that has huge implications for people being there.
So, as I see, it is also very important to cooperate and collaborate inside and domestically, in the nation level. For example, SpaceX with NASA, like this. So, how do you see the importance of government support in small businesses in space industry?
Sure. I mean, SpaceX is a perfect, beautiful example of the cooperation of government with the private sector, and it's really unprecedented, I would say. In the way it's being done. So what we've seen is several missions already going up there. I have to tell you, I don't know if some of your Mongolian viewers follow me on Twitter, but I'm really excited about this. I've been writing about this on Twitter a lot. And there are times when you can see the International Space Station up there above UB, above Ulaanbaatar, and I've written about that several times on Twitter and Facebook because I find it so exciting. So in those cases, in what I've seen, every time I look up there, I see, I can just visualize the 7 astronauts who are up there, and I've watched the docking, obviously on Earth, but I've watched the docking with great excitement. And the docking is indeed the docking of a space station that's been there for several decades already, with a SpaceX Dragon rocket missile that is really developed by the private sector. So I think that's a beautiful example of the kind of cooperation that's always necessary, particularly in space exploration, but in all sectors, really.
Yeah. So you have been in Mongolia for around 2 years?
Correct. A little less, yeah.
Yeah. So some people may wonder that how a country with only 3.5 million can carry out a giant project like Mars V. So how would you answer this question?
Oh, I think that Mongolia has tremendous potential in terms of young people, in terms of their education system, and just in terms of creativity and new perspectives. And I think those are the key variables that give Mongolia so many possibilities. That's one of the things that's really impressed me. I mean, as a diplomat, I tend to go to a lot of universities, and I've been really impressed by the level of knowledge and the creativity of some of the people that I've met. Obviously, I don't only go to universities that focus on sciences, but I know that in the field of STEM, which is the term we use for science, technology, engineering, and math, Mongolia is doing some impressive things. And I think one of the exciting things about Mars V and generally about focusing on space exploration is it not only gives a country the ability to contribute to an international effort like going to Mars, but it really encourages people to study things like STEM education fields. I think that's tremendously important because it benefits the country and it benefits the world. So having seen that here, not only with regard to this possibility of space, but things even like artificial intelligence, I'm really very, very impressed.
Thank you so much. So maybe there's something you want to talk and I couldn't ask from you, and it is especially 1st of January and first day of the year, so stage is yours if you want to
thank you.
say greetings to all.
Well, indeed, I want to greet everybody in Mongolia. Mongolia has been incredibly hospitable and friendly to my wife and me, and we've had a fantastic time. But even more important than that, I'm very, very optimistic about Mongolia. I'm excited about this country, and it's partly because of education and creativity that I've seen here. So wishing everybody a very happy 2021. Mashik Bayatla, thank you.
Mars on Earth International Digital Conference, Mars V.
Ladies and gentlemen, I trust you're enjoying the Mars on Earth. Thanks to the great minds, thought leaders of the world, commendable individuals with passion and whom are striving to make it a reality. We believe this will be marked as one of the building blocks in research and development history of Mongolia and the world. With today's growing interest in space activities, we're anticipating to shed light on the following thought-provoking questions. Why Mars? Why prepare the Mars generation? Why analog and training stations? What's Mongolia's role in the space era? And how can we leapfrog and step up the global value chain? The resemblance of Gobi to planet Mars. If you were able to grasp the answers to all these questions, we invite you to stand by our side in solving the world's common challenges of resource depletion and global warming for a sustainable development. This marks only the beginning. Will you join the combined global effort? With this, I hereby invite Mr. Amokhlum Bayer, the CEO of Mars V Project, to conclude and close the conference.
Greetings to all, Mr. President, Your Excellencies, distinguished guests. The International Conference on Mankind's United Vision to Reach Mars is coming to successful close. In the case of Mongolia, join this effort, as you say, is a giant leap. To quickly look back at the topics discussed today, the number of benefits, the development of Mars exploration, development of space research and technologies bring to the furthering of science, economy, and the innovation that is integrated into everyday life is unprecedented. In this sense, the result from research and plans for Mars settlements, training for Mars explorations, express the need to realize our current situations of resources depletion, whether it's water, food, and electricity set upon us on our very own planet. The topics of Mars exploration is not only being discussed, but already been prepared for by the Mars generation. Alisa, Camille, Linda, these representatives of the upcoming era will revolutionize the world and the next. The Mongolian president has expressed Mongolia's ambitions and goals to united under this mankind's ambition to progress the Mars generation, further policy making for Mars exploration and the development of sciences. The Mongolian state sees the importance to look towards the future. Mongolians have established the Mongolian airspace, the research and science station to rise side by side with the rest of the world, to use the united ambitions to create greatness, to solve the common issues around the globe, to give to the world the Mongolian know-how to survive in an environment with very limited resources, to access the Gobi Desert's Mars-like futures and present it to the world. Together, we will bridge mankind's vision to reach Mars. Mars for everyone.
Mars on Earth International Digital Conference, Mars V. Thank you everyone for staying with us. I hope 2021 will be a good year.
And may our all New Year resolutions come true.
So let's all thrive towards progress and
Mars for everyone! Happy New Year!